to actually back up his case that is actually more hurting some of the players. But in the grand scheme of things, like Zach Wheeler missing a start, Joel Embiid missing a game for load management will not affect how he plays in the first or second round of the NBA playoffs. Zach Wheeler missing a start because they want to be cautious with him will not affect him. Maybe it'll actually help him out come playoff time, right? But there are people that are bothered by it. Sometimes it's tickets, like, oh, I had tickets to the game that would have been Zach Wheeler. Now I'm watching Michael Mercado pitch. Like, maybe that has to do with it sometimes. But, Connor, what is something, and I know this might be harder for you than it is easy for John, what is something for you over a long season that shouldn't bother you, but it does?
So there are very few things. Like, I'm as stable as
very
it kind
even
of
keel.
gets as a Philadelphia sports fan, or at least I try to be. And there's something in football that drives me nuts. Thomas probably heard it because we did Fanatic Birds post-game show for the past 2 years. Holding penalties drive me insane. And I need to remember there's holding on every play in the NFL. And when you get into, like, and this is going to sound funny because I'm talking about offensive line holding.
Are you saying the flag itself, or are you saying the
No, I'm
player?
talking about, like, you can't hold like that. That drives me insane. Like, we've had a great offensive line in this city basically since I've been alive.
Right.
And every year there's a game or two where they have, like, 10 holding penalties.
Bunch, yeah.
And I lose my mind, and I'm like, is this offensive line losing it? And it's just the dumbest thing because it depends on the referee. It has nothing really to do with it.
It really does have nothing to do with the player itself. You're right. Tom, what is something in a long season that probably shouldn't bother you, but it does? It's just something that's always that thorn in your side, always that thing that bugs you when you see it.
I think it's any time that a pitcher, whether it's a starter or relief pitcher, gets taken out too early. You're always like, oh, he's only got 85 pitches. Why are you taking him out here? This reliever has only thrown 11 pitches, and he got out in 2 outs and got out of the inning like it was no problem. Why is he not back for the 8th inning? Because it's a 162-game season. It's a long season. There are a lot that goes into this. They know much more than us. It drives us crazy every single time. Anytime Wheeler's taken out too early, Suarez is taken out too early, everybody has the same reaction. What are you doing, Thompson? Why are you taking him out? Because it's a long season.
See, for me, it's analytics, but, like, analytics is every single day.
Yeah.
I know the importance of, like, matchup come playoff time, right? Like, it's very important. But what bugs me is how sometimes they use analytics and it just affects the flow of a season. And I'll use Rafael Marchand as an example. One of his first games back up when Real Muto gets hurt, he goes 4 for 4. Right? It was like his second or third start. He goes 4 for 4. And I'm like,
right.
All right, Topper, pencil him into the lineup tomorrow. And he doesn't. And I don't know if that was matchup-based. I don't know if it was preference for the pitcher, which I should take into account. Like, if Aaron Nola prefers pitching to Garrett Stubbs over Rafael Marchand, I should take that into account. I've played baseball, so I get it. I get that certain pitchers like pitching to certain catchers. But I'm kind of scarred by the Gabe Kapler era.
Yeah.
Where, like, if you went 4 for 4, the next day you weren't guaranteed to be in the lineup because your splits against the pitcher that you're facing might be bad. And I saw it early. I saw it.
Hate it.
I saw it actually with Joe Girardi, too. Like, there was a game. It's like the second game of the season when Hoskins was still on the team. And Hoskins had bad numbers against Max Scherzer.
I remember this.
So they benched Hoskins against Scherzer. It's like the second or third game of the season. I'm like, really?
Like, we're doing this already?
I get it.
And he puts Johan Camargo in instead.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was Camargo.
That's a name I haven't heard in
I
quite
understand that historically he has not fared well against Max Scherzer, but how many times have we talked about baseball being a weird sport? The Oakland Athletics are one of the worst teams in baseball. They've scored at least 18 runs 3 times this year. You never know when Hoskins might break through and have a good swing against Max Scherzer, and that might change his entire career against Scherzer the rest of the way. He might see something differently.
Right.
And there's stuff like that, like using numbers to make decisions during a regular season, despite how things might be playing out, bothers me.
Absolutely. And that leads us into something else, too. That this is not one of mine, but I know it's a lot of people's, and it's a pet peeve of mine sports-wise. People looking at something that you need to be able to understand which players matter and which players don't really matter.
Right.
Like
the backup catcher.
You brought up Rafael Marchand. And getting him going 4 for 4 and then sitting him, yeah, it looks silly even if you have the matchups. It's just like sometimes you have to let a guy go against the numbers.
Especially in a long season.
But
that's my problem with it.
At the same time, once you realize like a team is good enough, we saw it with the 2022 Eagles. We saw it with the 2017 Eagles. Like, it goes back to that conversation about the great teams that we were having last week.
Yeah.
Like, we know this Philadelphia Phillies team in the regular season is good enough. So I'm not worried about the backup catcher who's going to be behind a guy who plays every day when he's
not
healthy.
going to play in the playoffs.
I'm not worried about Michael Mercado pitching batting practice to the Oakland Athletic. Like, we need to understand that for a game, it might be annoying, but these players ultimately are not going to make a difference in the ceiling of this team.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's hear from you. You can text and you can call in 610-632-0975. Do we evaluate Nick Sirianni fairly in this city? Does he get enough credit for the good that has happened while he's been the head coach of the Eagles? And I know I sound like a hypocrite because I'm the guy or one of the guys that wanted him fired after this past season. And what is something in a long season that bothers you that probably shouldn't? Because it won't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. It won't mean anything come playoff time. It's not going to be the reason why they don't win a series or they lose the World Series or fall short of expectations. But what is something in sports that bothers you that has you saying that can't happen? It's an easy Monday today in the middle of July. You can text and call in 610-632-0975. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Connor in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Philadelphia Union Soccer.
Back over to Quinn. Quinn with the shot. Scores! Quinn Sullivan with the opening goal.
The games are here.
Raffanello drives it across. Looks for the header. Hits across. Barrimo scores! 91st minute. It's a 3-3 seesaw game.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hey guys, Andrew. We're all spending more time outdoors these days, right? It's summertime. You're trying to be outside as much as you can despite the 99-degree weather. So whether you're mowing the lawn, which I do on Mondays, I'm not really looking forward to it today, watering the vegetable garden, which I have to do a lot because of the heat, or you're just hanging out. Let me ask you, have you noticed any standing water or puddles around the perimeter of your home? Do you have any visible signs of settlement like cracks in exterior walls or unevenness? Well, you know what? These are clear signs of crawl space problems. You want to get these experts out pretty quickly, the experts at Groundworks. You want to After his trip to Virginia, Connor filling in for John today. Tom Alvord producing the show. We'll hit up the text line in a second. You can text the show. You can call in at 610-632-0975. Here's what we're talking about today. Nick Sirianni ranked 15th among NFL head coaches according to CBS and their team. And we wonder if we evaluate Nick Sirianni fairly in this city. Because I look at 15, and I think that's too low, considering the names he's behind. Zach Taylor of the Bengals, D'Amico Ryans of the Texans, Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings, Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins. Like, Mike McDaniel, like, why? Because he's quirky?
See, you say that, but if we had a chance to take Mike McDaniel in the city over Nick Sirianni, I think a lot of this fan base would do that.
I don't know if I'd want either of them.
Right, but I know, but the argument is one or the other. Like, Tom, are you taking Mike McDaniel over Nick Sirianni right now?
Yes.
And I don't think it's that hard of a thought process because that guy brings you something strategically to the game of football that is tangible. He can create an offense really, really well. I don't know if he could put together a winning culture or all of that intangible stuff, but tangibly, Mike McDaniel has proven he's an asset to an NFL franchise.
It's just funny. Again, I'll read you the blurb one more time this hour for Sirianni on CBS, and then I'm going to read you Mike McDaniel's, okay? How does a guy with the second best win percentage among active coaches end up 15th just 2 years after leading the Eagles to a Super Bowl shootout with the Kansas City Chiefs? Look no further than the 2023 collapse in which his brash personality only exacerbated a 1-7 finish that included and preceded major staff upheaval. With new top assistants, the pressure's on to capitalize on an all-star roster. Look, I agree with everything that's said, and that puts him 15th. Here's what it says from Mike McDaniel. Like his quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, McDaniel is suddenly under some pressure to come up big in key spots, which is justified considering the unmatched track speed his offense possesses. Still, it's important to remember how much and how quickly his timing-based attack vaulted Tagovailoa and company into MVP discussions. 2 postseason tickets in 2 years suggests he's here to stay as the head man. That final sentence, 2 postseason tickets in 2 years suggests he's here to stay as the head man. That sounds like a glowing review of Mike McDaniel. Whereas Nick Sirianni is 3 postseason tickets in 3 years, and it's, oh, he's on the hot seat.
And won the NFC.
Yeah, right, Super Bowl right, exactly. Yeah. Like, it's funny how
that's fair.
Things can be written differently for 2 guys that are 4 spots separated. One, you would think Mike McDaniel is this great head coach that's just fallen short of expectations, whereas Nick Sirianni and his brash personality is the reason why they collapsed. And now all of a sudden, those 3 playoff appearances that he has had meant nothing.
Well, you remember how earlier I said baseball is weird?
Yes.
Philadelphia sports is weird. Like, we don't ever have something that's easy to evaluate. We don't have a quarterback where it's like, oh, we know he's good. It's Carson Wentz where he's elite and then forgets how to play football.
Right.
We don't have a coach that wins a Super Bowl without almost getting fired 2 seasons after. We don't have a coach that goes to the Super Bowl without people saying, oh, well, they're not able to get it done. Like, we did it with Andy. We did it with Doug. We did it with Nick Sirianni. He's a tough coach to evaluate because how are you supposed to?
Right. Yeah, you don't really know if he's the offensive mind. You don't really know if he's actually a great leader when you see the stuff that goes on the sidelines when things are good and everybody loves it. But when things are bad and he has that same brash personality, as CBS says, you go, all right, is that the right thing to do? I have no problem with my head coach raising his voice to the players. Remember when he yelled at Hurts last year and people were like, oh, my God, how can you yell at Jalen? It's the NFL, man. Like, that's why. Right. That's how you can yell at Jalen Hurts. That's how you can yell at any single player. But it seemed like when things kept on getting worse, he had no answer other than yelling louder or he looked like a deer in the headlights. And that's a problem. Like, it's one thing to be a cheerleader when things are great. You have to be able to coach when your back is up against the wall, and he was never able to do that. So that's why I don't know if we evaluate him fairly. Maybe we do, and I'm saying it right now that we do evaluate him fairly. Maybe that's what it is, because we know when times are tough, good coaches are the ones that come out of it.
That's my argument for why we do. Like, I think he's been a tough guy to evaluate, so I'm going to give the fan base leeway, but I haven't seen any large reaction to something Nick Sirianni's done that has been unwarranted. I'll put it that way.
Right. I think that's fair.
So is that a fair evaluation? I believe so.
All right. You can text and call in 610-632-0975. The other discussion, what is something in a long season that shouldn't really bother you because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. My dad was very bothered by the series with the A's and the 18-3 loss yesterday. That can't happen with good teams, he told me. But it does. But I get it. It bothered him. He's trying to enjoy the game on the beach, right? And it was a horrible game to listen to. I'm sure it was a horrible game to watch. I'm sure it was a horrible game that you spent your hard-earned money on to go to. But it happens. What do we have on the text line, Tommy?
Yeah, so we got a couple people chiming in on things that bothered them. We got Rob from Lambertville who says teams playing for the tie in both soccer or hockey. So late in a game or late in overtime, whatever it may be, instead of going full force, we're playing for the tie, trying to get a point.
Yeah. I mean, that's something in hockey where you're like, oh, man, come on, go after it.
Get pucks on net. I don't care about,
But in the grand scheme of things, it's the smart play. It also tells me that you might not trust your players if you're playing for a tie.
Or also that you trust them a lot to win the next time out.
In overtime, maybe you love your 3-on-3 squad.
Kind of like how we talk about the Phillies getting smoked by the A's yesterday. Like, all right, whatever.
Right.
Like if you have a great team and you're in a game where you don't feel like you have your best stuff, you're like, well, we know we're going to win tomorrow night.
Right.
So let's just survive and go to overtime.
Or go to the All-Star break or something like that.
Exactly. So I don't know.
I think that's a great answer, though. I totally get it. Because if you're watching, not just Flyers, you're watching a hockey game, you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, go for it.
Win something.
Come on, man. Anyways.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get more of those coming up. And coming up next, not only do we reset the show, I told you, today's a show of rankings. CBS Sports put out their rankings of the head coaches. Nick Sirianni came in at 15. On ESPN.com. An ESPN Plus story. You're welcome for being your I'm your hookup for that. No, it's the Disney Plus package, man. Cooper needs to watch his shows.
It's true.
Executives, coaches, scouts ranked the quarterbacks in the NFL. Where is Jalen Hurts? I'll tell you about it next. Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A's blow out the Phils. I'm Tom Alvord, and this update is brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection at groundworks.com. Yes, the Phillies finished off the first half of the Major League Baseball season in disappointing fashion. They dropped a home series to the last place Oakland A's thanks to yesterday's 18-3 loss. The Phillies pitching was not good.
97.5 The Fanatic.
It is 7 o'clock on this Monday morning on Kincade and Salciunas. Johnny out today. He'll be back at it tomorrow. Connor in for him. We welcome you to the show. You can text in. You can call in 610-632-0975. Coming up this segment, ESPN.com. Jeremy Fowler spoke with executives and scouts and coaches in the NFL. They do this every single year, and they rank the different position groups. Like they have already done interior linemen and the offensive tackles. Us football guys care about that, but not everybody in the listening audience does. So that's why I waited till the quarterback ones to come out. And there will be other sexy positions that come out. Wide receivers will come out as the season, as the preseason, offseason continues. We'll see cornerbacks. We'll see linebackers. Not that the Eagles will have any of them. But quarterback is always one that intrigues us. And I love that we can start the week off with it. I'll tell you where Jalen Hurts is or isn't in the next 8 minutes. But let's reset the show. We'll get to a couple of texts. So here's what we're talking about today. It's a show of ranking. CBS put together their rankings of coaches in the NFL. And, of course, what do? We find out where Sirianni's at. And Sirianni is 15th, basically dead middle. Here are the names that he is with. They did 3 classifications, all right? The top classification, or the worst classification, was unproven or underwhelming. So dead last is Dennis Allen with the Saints. He would be considered underwhelming, whereas Gerard Mayo would be considered unproven because he's not coached a game in the NFL. Robert Saleh is 29th, which I think that's unfair.
I agree.
I think that's. I wanted him as the head coach before Sirianni. Like when Robert Saleh was a candidate, I wanted him hired. Dude, look, I'm not in New York, so I don't follow it close enough. I've seen New York Jets fans complain about Saleh. It's not his fault Zach Wilson sucked, and is no longer on the Jets. It's not his fault that Aaron Rodgers runs out there with the American flag, and then like 2 snaps later, his leg blows up. And they had an incredible defense last year. I blame the organization for not doing something drastically to try getting a quarterback. Remember Kirk Cousins was a potential trade target for them. There were other players available. Carson Wentz was out there, and they stuck with Zach Wilson and were horrible. Hello, Siri. How can I blame Robert Saleh for that?
You can't. And there's probably more to that we're not in tune with because we're not following the Jets every day. But again, it feels unfair to tie that coach to the performance when you don't have remotely a sense of quarterback.
Like I would put him ahead of Jonathan Gannon, but Jonathan Gannon is 27th on this list. He's 2 spots higher of Robert Saleh. But Nick Sirianni is under the Class B category, which is accomplished with questions. They write that these coaches aren't necessarily slam dunk bets to go the distance, either due to lack of experience, uneven stretches, or recent woes, but they show enough to warrant more time and belief. And again, it's funny how they say warrant more time and belief, but Sirianni's on the hot seat, but Mike McDaniel's fine because of his playoff appearances. It's funny to me. Todd Bowles is 22nd. Brian Dable is 21st. Dan Quinn is 20th. Shane Steichen, Sean Payton, Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson. They're all behind Nick Sirianni, who comes in at 15th. And it leads us to asking the question whether or not we evaluate Nick Sirianni fairly. Because Sirianni has been a successful head coach in terms of winning percentage. He's been a successful head coach in terms of playoff appearances. He's 3 for 3. He's been a successful head coach in terms of going the distance in the playoffs by getting to a Super Bowl, which is more than some of the coaches in front of him on these coaching rankings can say. But we also lived it. We saw what happened last year, and I can't ignore any of that. So do we evaluate him fairly, yes or no?
I will strongly contend that we do, as fairly as we can. I think it is one of the more difficult positions in Philadelphia sports right now to evaluate, is Nick Sirianni as the head coach of the Eagles. And right behind that is probably the guy that we're looking at in this next list you're going to bring up with Jalen Hurts. But when you've had such high highs and low lows in a short time frame without a lot else to look at.
It feels longer, doesn't it?
It really does.
I feel like it's been like 10 years. It's only year 4 of Nick Sirianni.
The Super Bowl from 2022 feels as far away as the 2017 Super Bowl.
Yeah,
probably.
because of what happened last year, and it was so bad, and it all happened under his watch, which is why I wanted him to be relieved of his duties, and I believe that he's only back because he said yes to Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. I read a story on NBC Sports Philadelphia this morning where they were talking about Nick Sirianni's new role, and they put a quote from one of his press conferences during the spring where he said it was my decision. Like, he backed up once again, saying it was his decision to bring in Kellen Moore. Like, I don't believe that it was. I believe he said yes to the decision, which makes it his decision.
That's the old "you can't fire me, I quit." Like,
right.
Okay, they say they want you to do something. You're like, yeah, see, I agree.
Yeah,
like,
sure, I would like
doesn't
to
make it.
I would like to contain my job here in the NFL.
That's what I would guess as well.
So, do we evaluate him fairly? Yes or no? 610-632-0975. You can text and call in. And our other topic, what is something in a long season that really probably shouldn't bother you, but it does? For me, it was the use of analytics during the regular season, even though it is important come playoff time, playing matchups, using splits, bringing certain pitchers in to face certain batters. But my problem with it is, like, a guy like Marchand a couple weeks ago goes 4 for 4 and isn't in the lineup the next day. And that's not just a Rob Thompson thing. That's been something that the Phillies have been doing, and that's something that baseball's been doing. You don't get rewarded for having a great game sometimes if your name's not Bryce Harper. Like, if you're Bryce Harper, you're penciled in every single day. But if you're a platoon player, like Brandon Marsh could go 4 for 4 against a right-handed pitcher, but the next day, if it's a lefty in the lineup, he's not going to play. Now, that's been going on since the beginning of time with baseball, has been platooning certain guys. But because of how young he is, you go, all right, maybe you can give this guy a shot.
Right.
And they don't want to.
There should be more of a sliding scale with that. It should be more case by case, and I don't think Rob Thompson operates that way as much as he should. And my contention is, at the end of the day, if this team's good enough to be where they need to be at the end of the regular season,
what should it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like, my dad freaking out about an 18-3 loss yesterday, and
they have the most wins
man?
by the All-Star break in franchise history.
Right, exactly.
I don't care they lost to the Athletics yesterday.
All right, Tommy, what do we have on the text line today?
Yeah, so we got another one coming from something that bothers people. This is no name, unfortunately, but they say, agree with all your can't happen so far. He goes, I have one here. It's when a guy comes up with the bases loaded and then strikes out and then hits a solo home run later in the game.
Yeah.
I know guys can't always come through with the bases loaded or guys on, but it's frustrating to see the miss with guys on and then come up later.
Some guys just aren't built for the moment.
Guess not.
I mean, that's all there is to it. Now, that could happen in the playoffs, too.
Yes.
And I would be upset about that.
Right.
Like, I'm like, that's something that could happen in the playoffs. What I want to do with this conversation is something that really shouldn't bother you. Like, that would bother you. You did not come through with runners in scoring position. Like, that actually should bother you in the regular season or in the playoffs.
You know what, though? Something like that just jogs something in my mind. Something that bothers the hell out of me in baseball.
Okay.
And it's only in baseball because it's the only sport where ballparks are different. I hate seeing a Phillies player hit a ball on the road that I'm like, oh, that ball's out at the back.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it drives me insane. Like, how is that not a home run there?
Because they do the graphic that shows, would have been out in 16 different ballparks.
I'm like, well, screw this park then. Build it smaller or build it bigger if you give up a home run that, like, wouldn't have been somewhere else.
That's the beauty of baseball, man.
It is.
Different dimensions is the beauty of baseball.
Part of me loves it, and it shouldn't bother me.
60 feet, 6 inches remains the same. 90-foot base paths, those all remain the same.
Again, it shouldn't bother me. I'm telling you, it shouldn't, but it does.
All right, and what else do we have? I know we have a text on the Phillies as well.
Yes, we do. This is from Miz in the Northeast, who says, Phillies fans need to RELAX, relax. I actually anticipated them losing this series. They just beat down on the team of the Dodgers, who they could potentially see in the playoffs. It's a long season. Had the Phillies went out there, tried to win, and someone got hurt, they'd be calling for Thompson's head. It was a meaningless game. Why was he even playing?
That's so they just beat the Dodgers thing. Like, that's what I tried to tell my dad yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I could have bet all the money in the world if they lost that first game against the A's.
Well,
the letdown piece after the big win, after the big series,
emotional
sweep.
series.
I'm going to disagree because since when have we seen this Phillies team fall into a trap like that? Like, they take care of business in game ones of series very often. They're great,
dude. Everybody's human. They knew the All-Star break was 3 days away, and they just swept the Dodgers.
I
and
can't,
everybody was talking about
Especially
them.
when you got Tyler Phillips, who pitched great, by the way, and then Orion Kerkering as your starters in 2 of the 3 games.
Right.
I can't do I was expecting them to lose the Athletics. I don't care. Like, you could play the Athletics for 3 games after winning the World Series, and you should still beat that team. Like, come on.
Hey, man, look, 18 runs 3 times this year.
I get it. I'm
you
not
never know what might
mad
happen
about it, but I'm not going to pretend like I went into that series saying, whatever.
By the way, a lot of people really watched Brent Rooker for the first time.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a pretty good ball player, and that's a potential outfield piece for the Phillies.
Do you think he has enough power, though?
Yeah, I think so after those 2 bombs yesterday. 5 ribbies for Rooker yesterday. 3 for Lawrence Butler. What a day. 3 for 3 with 3 home runs, 6 ribbies. Pretty good day for some of the A's batters. Not so much. Just look at the A's box score. Don't look at the Phillies because it's a little gross. All right. So I promised that we would get to this segment. ESPN.com ranked the quarterbacks. They've interviewed executives, coaches, and scouts. Now, these coaches can be anywhere from head coaches to maybe, quarterback coach or assistant coach. But they have a lot of them. Do you want to guess where Jalen Hurts ranks? They have top 10, and then they also have, hold on, let me see, 6 honorable mentions.
I would say, and this is great too, because we did this a couple weeks ago, where we tried to put together a draft of how GMs would view the quarterback position in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the data.
Oh, there's also 2 also receiving votes.
Okay.
So let's say there's 18.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of reading of you because it took you a while to go through the honorable mention and it took you a while to see the extra. So I'm going to imagine Jalen Hurts is in the top 10, and I'm going to say he's probably near the bottom of the top 10. I'm going to guess they put him at 9.
All right. Tommy, where do you think Jalen Hurts ranks? Not your opinion. All right? And again, this is why I said this is a beautiful day for us because we can't get yelled at. I can't get yelled at by...
Oh, we can always get yelled at.
You brought up the topic, buddy.
Jalen Hurts fan, 696969. What do you mean Jalen Hurts isn't top 3? This is not our list. This is ESPN.com. Remember when we all had Hurts like 8th? We ended up, Tom, one of the days when John was here. It was me, John, and Connor. We all basically redrafted the quarterbacks. And we had Hurts anywhere from 6 to like 10. Or maybe, no, it was like 5 to 9, something like that.
Yeah.
He was a top 10 quarterback no matter what spot. And there were still people upset that we didn't have him. There was one guy that said, I have him 3rd in the league. And I'm like, all right, you could say that.
You're a hater, bro.
I don't agree with you, but he was upset that we had him like 6th and not 3rd. And I'm like, well, 6 is still top 10 is top 10. Where do you think Jalen Hurts is?
Yeah, first of all, don't know how also receiving votes and honorable mention aren't the same thing. Like, wouldn't they all be honorable mentions at that point? I will say he's an honorable mention based on the overreaction that we get a lot in the NFL based on one season and people still having doubts about him as a passer. I will go honorable mention.
You, sir, are correct.
No way. Seriously?
This is according to executives, coaches, and scouts in the NFL. Not knuckleheads on the radio. Coming in at number 1, no shock, Patrick Mahomes. Coming in at number 2, Joey Burrow.
Ridiculous.
So I still think of him very highly.
Yeah,
Joe
he's
Burrow.
great quarterback.
And I have the Bengals game as one of the losses for the Eagles this season when we did the wonderful W's and L's day. I have that as one of the losses. And if they can put out a freaking offensive line in front of him, his leg might not blow up again, and he might be good, right? So Joe Burrow, does he deserve to be 2nd on this list?
No.
After being hurt as much as he has? Yeah, probably not. But again, they're not ranking this off of past performances. They are, like if you're a scout in the NFL, who would you pick as a quarterback right now? A lot of them voted Joe Burrow 2nd.
That doesn't, I know I can't smell. That doesn't pass the smell test for me.
Okay. 3rd, Josh Allen.
Come on, man.
4th, you finally get your MVP in Lamar Jackson. Two-time MVP. Lamar Jackson comes in 4th. In 5th, Matthew Stafford. Now, again, this isn't building a team around. This is heading into this season. So nobody would build a team around Matt Stafford at this point because of his age, but he comes in at 5. And Matt Stafford continues to prove me wrong because every year I think it might be the end, despite how much I like Matt Stafford as a quarterback. He's just been injured. He finishes 5th.
Well, it'll be my turn to be wrong this time, I guess, on that, because he's not Tom Brady, where it's like every time you predict he's washed, he's just not. Like, I'm not going to say Matt Stafford's washed, but he's not a top 5 quarterback in football right now. He's just
No, he's not.
He's not.
And by the way, they put together the highest ranking and lowest ranking, like what people voted as. So Mahomes' lowest ranking, somebody did have him as 2nd. And somebody did put Josh Allen as number 1.
You said these are executives and coaches in
Executives, coaches, and scouts.
here? If
Yep.
you put Mahomes too, that person should be fired.
Yeah, they should be. Like, honestly, we should find out who that was, and they should be fired.
Yes.
Because they put Josh Allen at 1.
Yeah. Oh, it's Sean McDermott then.
That must like who has Josh? Like seriously, who has Josh Allen as the number 1 quarterback in the
Gotta
NFL?
be
That's
someone in Buffalo,
ridiculous,
man.
So Lamar, his highest ranking, people did put him as 2nd, but the way the voting worked out,
Right.
he finishes 4th. Matt Stafford 5th. This one is just perfect for Connor. Coming in at number 6 is Justin Herbert.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you're evaluating there with Justin Herbert that tells you that's the guy you want.
Well,
okay, he's got arm talent.
And that's what it is, dude. I read you that piece from the 33rd team that had him as a top 5 quarterback due to the prototype that he is.
You know what's most important in quarterbacks? Do they win?
Right.
Okay, I don't care if you throw the ball 80 yards if you can't win when it matters. Like, I don't care if you're the prototype size or if your athleticism. I don't care how you play the game. I care that your team has more points at the end of the day and the quarterback has most effect on that. And Justin Herbert has not done that enough at the NFL level to be there.
So here's what they write about him. Herbert critics are quick to point out his pedestrian 30-32 career record as a starter, but most agree that the weight of the Chargers' struggles doesn't fall squarely on Herbert and otherworldly talent who helped that record more than he hurt it. Big, strong, fast, powerful arm, and an AFC personnel evaluator said. There you go. It's right. It's perfect for you.
Okay, great.
Will stare down some targets and try to make some hero-type plays at times, holding the ball too long and throwing into tight windows, but he has everything you want. Touch, velocity, size, and athletic ability. That's the prototype thing. That's why he is 6th. His highest voted ranking was 3rd, but his lowest did have him out of the top 10.
Yeah. Well, the lowest is smart. Give
That's
that
the
person a
smart one,
promotion. And whoever had Justin Herbert 3rd, fire them into the sun.
C.J. Stroud comes in at 7. Aaron Rodgers comes in at 8.
I can't fault the Rodgers thing.
No, I can't either, but it's amazing. Guy didn't play last year.
Dude's 40 years old coming off an Achilles
Yeah,
injury.
exactly.
I got you, but he was also, back-to-back MVP before that?
Yeah, he was.
Well, I get it. It's just crazy.
Jared Goff comes in at 9. And to round out the top 10, any guesses?
Oh, no.
Dak Prescott.
Yes.
I was just going to
beautiful.
say, tell me it's not the guy in Dallas.
It's unbelievable, dude. He comes in at 10. So your top 10, and notice Jalen Hurts' name was not mentioned. This voted on by executives, coaches, and scouts in the NFL, not the CFL, not college football, not your bar, not your fantasy football league. The people that work the league at the highest level. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, Stafford 5th, Herbert, Stroud, Rodgers, Goff, and Prescott. Dakota Prescott at 10. Your honorable mentions in order. So let's just do it this way. Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, and then Jalen Hurts. So if I go in order, that means Jalen Hurts is 13th.
That's nuts.
Purdy at 11. That's ridiculous.
See, I've never been more confident in one of my strongest takes that I've ever had, which is that we give way too much credit to executives and coaches in sports
You
for
have said
believing
that a
they
lot.
know what they're doing. They don't have a clue. I'm not saying all of them, but just like any other job and any other industry, there are some very, very bad ones.
But now, let's talk about this. We're going to open up the phone line and the text line on this, 610-632-0975. I want your reaction. Let's just say 13th, all right, because he is the 3rd player mentioned in the honorable mentions. ESPN.com has him outside of the top 10, and if you just want to read an order, they have him 13th. We talk about Nick Sirianni being ranked 15th among coaches in the NFL, and I asked the question, Do we evaluate Nick Sirianni fairly? He's 15th, and we look at him like he sucks. Jalen Hurts is 13th, and a lot of us have him ranked in the top 10, top 8. Some of you have him in the top 5. Do we think too highly of Jalen Hurts? 610-632-0975 is the number to climb in. I will read to you what they wrote about Jalen Hurts and what put him at 13th in this ranking. I'll give you that next, but would love your reaction to it. Do we think too highly of him? We look at things through a green-colored lens. The national media or the NFL does not. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Ugly loss for the Phils. I'm Tom Albort, and this update is driven by Gary Barbera. Gary Barbera has 0% for 80.
This hour of Kincade Salciunas is presented by the all-new BetParks app. Sportsbook and casino in one sleek, easy-to-use app in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Ohio, Maryland, and Michigan.
It is 7:30 on Kincade and Salciunas on this beautiful Monday morning. 97.5 The Fanatic. Hot week ahead. So I guess I probably shouldn't necessarily say beautiful. It's going to be
99
Yeah,
today?
dude, it's gonna be steamy. Today's yard work day, so wish me luck. I don't want to.
Yeah, my Alexa told me that this morning. She tells me the weather when I wake up.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
nice. And she told you it was going to be 99 degrees today,
So I
which
might
is
just go back
crazy.
to bed.
Yeah, but then you would have missed work, which I almost did today, but I'm here. I don't know what happened. I hit snooze. And
it snoozed.
It snoozed. And 40 minutes went by. And I was like, what the hell happened? We're here. We made it.
You got here.
All right. So if you're just tuning in, today's a day of rankings. As CBS Sports ranked their top, well, all 32 head coaches in the NFL. Nick Sirianni came in at 15, which I actually thought was too low considering the names ahead of him, even though 15 sounds about right. ESPN interviewed executives, coaches, and scouts and ranked the quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts is not in the top 10. Jalen Hurts is 13th. Behind him, Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence. And then the also receiving votes were Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. Jalen Hurts 13th, which I think is too low, but maybe we look at it from a green-colored lens.
Yeah, I guess.
Like the quarterback's ahead of him. All right, Dak Prescott at 10 I think is ridiculous, right? I don't think Dak Prescott should be ahead of Jalen Hurts, but the question is, should Jordan Love be ahead of Dak Prescott?
Well, they just smoked him in the postseason, so head-to-head.
And Jordan Love is currently ahead of Jalen Hurts, so if you were to swap Dak out, are you swapping in Love or Hurts? And if you swap in Love, then that keeps Hurts out of the top 10. The other quarterbacks, Jared Goff. I think we all do the same thing. Jared Goff. We all do it.
Right.
And then John gives us the statistics and the numbers, and sometimes numbers lie, but you can't ignore what he did last year. He was ridiculous last year.
I don't hate that as much now as I have in the past. Like when he was with the Rams as a younger quarterback.
Yeah.
He was the Brock Purdy of that.
Right, he
league.
absolutely was.
But what he did last year with Detroit is undeniable. I don't know if I'd have him top 10, but I'd have him in that conversation, so I can't hate that.
But if you wouldn't have him top 10, then who would you replace him with? It would, I guess, Hurts.
I would probably take Hurts over Goff right now if you asked.
I would too. So then that puts him at 9. And then the quarterbacks ahead of that, Rodgers at 8, which who knows how that plays out this season. Stroud is at 7. Herbert at 6, I think, is ridiculous. Stafford at 5 is high, but he's still a top 10 quarterback.
Right.
Like, if he's not 5, he's
I
6,
think
7, 8 range.
5 is high, but it's the same thing as the Rodgers, where it's so tough to evaluate against them because of the track record.
Right. And Stafford's still playing at a high level. Like, it's not just track record. It's not like he's Ben Roethlisberger in his final year of his career. Like, Stafford still played at a high level last year when everybody thought he was done. Lamar 4, Josh Allen 3, way too high. Burrow 2, probably way too high. And Mahomes comes in at number 1. Here's what they said about Jalen Hurts, because there's a blurb for every single player to explain why they finished where they did. After a year 3 star turn that garnered a Super Bowl appearance and a $255 million contract, Hurts' play dipped in 2023. So first sentence, we all okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fair.
It did dip. His QBR ranking fell from 4th with a 68.3 to 12th with a 60.1. His 15 interceptions were so uncharacteristic that the total nearly matched that of his first 3 years combined, which was 18. A knee injury that he tried his best to manage clearly affected him, according to several evaluators. I thought that too. Never got surgery.
No.
Like, nothing's been made. Has he been asked about his knee?
No.
Seriously,
He was playing in the Pro Bowl, like right after. It's not even like he took time off. He went right from the season to the Pro Bowl, and we haven't heard anything since.
And so he looked slow last year. We all agree.
He did.
Eye test, he looked slow. He did not look quick. He looked like he couldn't get around the edge like he was able to in years past or even earlier in the season. I do think the knee hampered him a bit last year. But am I saying that because he didn't play well and I'm looking for an excuse? Because I have not heard a single thing about the knee.
Well, let's think about, and I'm not a doctor, I just play one on the radio. Like, if it's something like it's tendonitis where it gets better with rest, if it's a bad bone bruise, where it's just like it's gonna heal, you can't do anything for it, it just hurts.
I heard the bone bruise thing. What? Jay Glazer reported bone bruise.
Yeah,
and that was like week 5, week 6.
It, like that stuff. If it's a bad one, and we've seen some of these NFL injuries, like Zach Ertz's kidney, or not kidney. Was his kidney exploded or something?
His lung detached or fell off?
I thought it was a lacerated kidney.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. Like these NFL,
spleen, maybe
a bone bruise for an NFL player is not a bone bruise when you walk into the coffee table. So it's just like, I don't know. Do I think it affected him? Yes. Am I overly freaked out that I haven't heard any news? Nah, not really. Until I see him like hampered this year, then we'll be really worried.
Okay. So it continues. Quote this from an NFC executive. He was playing hurt. The Eagles tried to downplay that, but he didn't look right. He wasn't the same runner he was in the past, and passing the ball was tough for him. An AFC scout said he'll always be in that 7 to 12 range depending on how productive he is each year. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think, look, he was the second best player in the NFL 2 years ago.
And when I hear that he'll always be in the 7 to 12 range, I don't see that more as a restriction than I see it as him talking about like his floor. Like, I don't see that as he can't have a year of a top 5
right,
guy.
and we saw it 2 years ago where he was able to.
But that consistency and athleticism and his dual threat ability will keep him in that 7 to 12 range, even when he has years like he did last year.
See, I heard that more as that's his ceiling's not getting any higher. That's how I took it there. Like 7 to 12, I don't think that's fair for Jalen Hurts.
Seven's good.
7's good, but the best he will ever be the rest of his career is the 7th best quarterback. No, he finished second in MVP voting 2 years ago.
That's why you can't take it that way. Or that executive's an idiot.
Yeah, which is very possible, as you mentioned.
Which is possible. I think if somebody says from here on out, Hurts will be a 7 to 12 quarterback, you sign up for that.
I'm content with that, absolutely.
You're signing up for it because a top 12 quarterback can win you a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy is in the same ranking of Jalen Hurts right now. Jordan Love is right ahead of Jalen Hurts, and people have Jordan Love in the top 5 already, some people with their lists, right? So a top 12 quarterback is still a good spot to be in. He's 13th on this list. They also mentioned the Eagles' offense became stale as a whole, according to high-ranking NFL team officials, and the predictable offense attack affected Hurts' stock. That shouldn't be Hurts' fault. It may have led to what affected it, clearly, because the offense sucked last year, and it wasn't just on Jalen Hurts. I do believe Jalen Hurts deserves pie when it comes to the blame chart. He definitely deserves pie, but he doesn't deserve a huge piece of it.
I think we're on the same page with that. Like, as hard as Nick Sirianni is to evaluate as a head coach, I don't think Hurts is that difficult to evaluate as a quarterback.
Is he in a fair spot then? He's at 13.
That's not a fair spot. He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I firmly believe that.
So you would have him ahead of Brock Purdy. I think we all agree. Look, despite what Brock Purdy was able to do last year and what he did, the story 2 years ago was amazing. If anybody's still taking Brock Purdy over Jalen Hurts, I think you're crazy. It could change, but right now I'm still taking Hurts. Jordan Love or Hurts?
I'm taking Hurts right now.
Okay. Love's ceiling higher.
I'm taking Hurts over Stroud and Love because I don't think 1 year is fair enough to put you over a guy who's been to a Super Bowl 2 years ago and was going to be MVP. I don't think after 8 games, 8 to 14 good games in the NFL, where there's now more tape on these guys, I don't think that's fair to place.
Well,
and I think that's fair, but I think Jalen Hurts had 1 season.
Exactly, and he did it with a much better team. So
potentially, but you saw enough flashes last year from Jalen Hurts. Like, yes, he dipped obviously.
I
but
didn't see many flashes last year.
I was
very down on Jalen Hurts.
That Buffalo game was like vintage great.
I think
second half,
12 weeks 4 through 12. I thought you saw some. Oh, that's 2022 Hurts. Now, obviously, it wasn't enough. He
clearly wasn't enough. Yeah.
But I don't know. I've seen Jalen Hurts be good for a majority of the last 2 seasons, in my opinion.
I was very disappointed in the way he played. Like, can I just be real with you guys?
Yeah.
Like, I did not think he had a good season last year. I'm not saying he sucked last year. He's my franchise quarterback. I'm not starting to look at other options and start going, oh my God, what if it doesn't work out? No, I think he's going to bounce back. Despite what Adam Schefter has said to us a couple of times, that he better play well this year Look what they did with Carson Wentz. They won't be afraid to do it again. Clearly, he's talking to people that may have said something like that.
Right.
I don't think we're going to get to that point. I think he bounces back this year. He was not good last year.
Well, here's what it is, right? If Bryce Harper hit 265 for a season, it would be a major disappointment.
Yes.
But if most other players in baseball hit 265, it's like, okay, that's a solid year by today's standards. Hurts, by franchise quarterback standards last year, didn't have a good season, right? If we're holding him to that.
Right.
I can understand where you're coming from, but we're not saying he stunk.
The rest of the league wasn't that good last year either.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest
Dude, when
thing.
you look at the list, the rest of the league still isn't that good.
No, it's not. Now, if Matt Stafford at 36 years old, and this isn't Tom Brady at 36 years old, this is Matt Stafford. If he's a top 5 quarterback, that's probably not a good spot for the NFL.
I think 2 through 10 you could interchange every single year in the NFL.
You probably could.
Every single year, except one will always be constant.
You should say 2 through 13 because Hurts is 13th on this.
Okay, you can go 2 through 13. Like, I just think there's that much parity and it's such a year-to-year, week-to-week league that all these changes can be made at any given moment.
All right, so coming up next, because I gave you what they said about him, I want to get your reaction to this. Jalen Hurts, 13th on this list on ESPN.com, voted on by the scouts, executives, and coaches in the NFL, not Andrew, Connor, and Tom. So don't come after us. I believe he's a top 10 quarterback. I think 13th is ridiculous. But how high up in the top 10 is he? Like, do we think too highly of Jalen Hurts? Because there are some people. We had a guy a couple weeks ago when we did our rankings that was upset with us putting him 8th and thought he should be 3rd. Would love to get your reaction to this. You can text in, call in 610-632-0975. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Connor and for John today, right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney.
You now have someone in Nick Nurse that I feel, and I think many feel, like you give him pieces, he'll make them work.
He has a lot to say about Philadelphia sports.
There may have been a hesitancy before, whether it was Brett Brown, Doc Rivers, whoever, and you said, yeah, but can they figure it out? I don't think we have that with Nick Nurse. I think we have a guy that we all have confidence.
Do you know the Funplex?
Yes.
It's
awesome.
It's 2 minutes from the house I grew up in.
Oh, really?
It's one of my favorite places in the world.
All right, well, then you want to check out this deal of the week. Experience unforgettable summer thrills at the Funplex. Each wristband offers unlimited access to indoor rides, Splashplex Water Park, 1 hour bowling, and select video games. Get this exclusive offer while supplies last at 97.5thefanatic.com/deals. That's a great place to go when it's 99 degrees outside.
Yeah.
You're either at the pool or you're at an air-conditioned arcade. Like, it's
It's
a great place to be.
Go-karts and everything. My brother and I, we did the little kid go-karts one time. We must have been like 6 or 7.
Okay.
And we were the only 2 kids on the actual go-karts. It was just me and him going
that's
around.
awesome.
And there's no bumping, especially for little kids like that. Like, they try and have you just drive around. And I kept steering into him on purpose.
Of course you did.
And they kicked him off. And then
What?
And then it was just me. I had bumped him so much they thought it was him. I blamed him, and then I just drove around in a
my
circle
God.
by myself while I sat on the side.
He probably hated you for that.
He absolutely
He
did.
absolutely hated
He
you
was
for
not
that.
happy.
All right, check out 97.5thefanatic.com for all of our incredible deals of the week. This one, an amazing one with the Funplex. All right, we'll get to the texts, but I want to get to the calls first. The quarterback rankings on ESPN.com. Jalen Hurts, this from coaches, executives, and scouts. So I keep on saying not Tom, Andrew, and Connor. Also not Stephen A. Smith, Dan Graziano.
Skip Bayless.
Like the people that go, oh, ESPN has an agenda. This was the coaches, executives, and scouts of the NFL. They have Hurts 13th. Let's go to Eric and Marlton. Eric, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Good morning, guys. First off, I love the show. There's nobody talking sports better anywhere.
Thanks,
any state, any city than you guys. So I want to big you guys up first.
You're the man, Eric.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you so much.
All right, so I live in South Jersey now 8 years. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm unfortunately a Jets fan, but I didn't call to talk about that. I deal with therapists that I talk about that every week. So we're gonna save that for another time. But so I'm a Jets fan, but I live in this area now, and I always heard about folks from Philadelphia, sports fans complaining that there's a stigma against Philadelphia, that people hate Philadelphia, and I didn't believe it from New York. But now that I'm here, I see it, and I see it a lot with the Eagles, and I see it with Jalen Hurts. Now, I just did a fantasy football draft last night on ESPN, and it had Jalen Hurts ranked number 2, only behind, of course, Mahomes. I don't think anybody debates.
But that's
number 1.
But that's
debatable.
That's different. Fantasy football is different.
Yeah, I agree. So just in watching, I don't miss any Eagles games because I get them because I live here now. I have Jalen Hurts ranked number 2. That's the second best quarterback in football. I know that's probably going to sound crazy. The only quarterback I would take over him is Mahomes. I have ahead of Lamar Jackson. I have ahead of Josh Allen, who can't win a big game to save his life. Jordan Love is going to be good. So is Stroud, but after it's a short sample size. I have him ranked number 2. The fact that Stafford they have at 5 is
right.
To me is ridiculous. And Dak Prescott, I don't hate to say it, but isn't Dak Prescott more like number 18 to 21 at this point?
No, so I think he's higher than 18 to 21. Eric, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it. But he Hurts at 2. Now, look, this is interesting. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the second best quarterback in the NFL. Okay?
I don't either.
But I find it very interesting that he's doing it from a Jets fan perspective. I always say how we look at things through the green-colored lens, right? I do think we are still we try to be, I'm just a realist, right? Like I think people do that. So instead of putting Hurts 4th or 5th, we'll put him 7th or 8th because we don't want to sound like a homer. But the question is 7th and 8th too high? Like, are we still giving him a little bit of a nod because he is the franchise quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles? We watch him more so than any other quarterback in the NFL. We see how successful the Eagles have been with him, and we don't really evaluate what other quarterbacks have done despite maybe lesser records. Like Justin Herbert, there's a reason why he's thought of highly along league circles. Despite them never winning anything, they look at the prototype. And I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's dumb.
You should not be higher on a list because you are a prototype, and Jalen Hurts isn't, quote-unquote, a prototype. But there's a reason why people do that, because they try to evaluate certain talent. We don't have to do that here. We're letting ESPN do it. But that guy who's a Jets fan, who has no love for the Eagles, has him 2nd.
Which, that's equally as crazy as 13th, I think, to be honest. Like, love the E, but he's not the second best quarterback in football.
Can you say
right
there's definitively a second best quarterback?
I don't know if you
though?
can.
I don't think you can.
I don't know.
Dude, it's Lamar Jackson to me, and I
It's
will
fine,
not
guys.
lose
He's
any
had his
sleep over
shortcomings come playoff time.
Right. Now, the question
Yeah.
is, are we ranking this like they get to the playoffs because of him?
Sure.
Right? When he stays healthy. So it's interesting. Like, it's funny, man. I'll give you more of these on the other side, but what they did on this list, they put last year's ranking and then the highest vote they got and the lowest vote they got. So Patrick Mahomes' highest vote was first. Obviously, he was first. His lowest was second. But then when you start looking at the other quarterbacks, they're all over the place.
That's right. 2 through
I think,
13 are
dude,
all interchangeable.
I think you're right. Connor, you're probably right that it should just be Lamar because of the two-time MVP. Like, he should just get the nod. But if we just give him the nod, there's no definitive third. There's no definitive fourth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's
kind of wild.
It's crazy.
And that's
the
why I had the
parity
problem
right
with
now.
he can only get 7 through 12. When
Right.
talking about Hurts, like, no, you can get to 2, you can get to 3, you can get anywhere based on one season.
No, but that's why I think it's the floor.
Sure. Yeah, I just viewed it differently, but I get
What's disappointing is the quarterbacks in the top 10 they have is they show the highest rank and the lowest rank. They don't do it for the honorable mentions.
Oh,
So I can't see what Hurts got in terms of the highest vote. But I'll give you the quarterbacks coming up next, how high they're ranked, how low they're ranked, because it is crazy right now. And look, I've said this a million times. I don't care about ratings. That's something that John and I argued about a lot. The NFL product sucked last year.
You don't care about NFL ratings.
I care about our ratings.
Yes, please listen.
The NFL ratings, because John kept on saying, well, what do you mean the product sucked? The ratings were through the roof. I don't care. The show that Big Bang Theory, but the Young Sheldon.
Oh, Young Sheldon, yeah.
I never talked to a single person that watched that show.
It's good ratings.
It gets great ratings. I've never had a conversation with somebody that has watched that show, but it gets great
Ricochet
ratings,
shot
right?
The Young Sheldon.
The NFL sucked last year, but the ratings were through the roof. Of course they were. But the NFL sucked because quarterback play sucked. Coaching sucked last year. All right, we'll get into this more. Also, today's headlines with Tom Alford coming your way next. It's Kincade Salciunas. Connor in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Ugly end to the first half. I'm Tom Alford, and this update is brought to you by Worldwide Stereo. Cinema quality video, jaw-dropping music, and enchanting lighting isn't reserved for your living room. Take it outside with 48-month, no-interest financing. Visit worldwidestereo.com. Yes, the Philadelphia Phillies finished off this first half of the MLB season in disappointing fashion. They dropped a home series to the last place Oakland A's thanks to yesterday's 18-3 loss. The Phillies pitching was awful. They allowed 15 total hits, including 8 home runs on the day. Garrett Stubbs even made an appearance on the mound. The offense wasn't much better. They racked up just 4 total hits. This was the Phillies' first home series loss since early April. The Phils and the rest of Major League Baseball are now out off until Friday as we head to the All-Star break. Alec Bohm competes in tonight's Home Run Derby, followed by the All-Star Game tomorrow night. You can listen to both right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The first 2 rounds of the 2024 MLB Draft began last night. Phillies selected high school outfielder Dante Nori with the 27th overall pick. They selected high school outfielder Griffin Burkholder in round 2. The Sixers officially signed second-rounder Adem Bona to a 4-year, $8 million rookie contract, and we are just 8 days away from the start of Eagles training camp. Cannot wait. I'm Tom Alford on the home of the 2024 MLB All-Star Game, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Now is the time to become a Fanatic MVP. Go right now to 975thefanatic.com/MVP and make sure you subscribe to the Fanatic MVP newsletter. Member-only contests and be the first to know about Fanatic events. Plus, insight and analysis about all your favorite Philly teams from our hosts and insiders. And offer your opinion on the big stories making news. Remember, go to 975thefanatic.com/MVP today.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-239-1749. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-239-1749. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-239-1749. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-239-1749, 800-239-1749, or biglou.com.
At Anderson, we understand the challenges of builders and contractors better than most. Here's proof from real pros.
The best service department is the one you don't need, right? But when you do, I know they're going to be there.
The 400 series has earned my trust to the point where we have put it in our own home.
When somebody says Anderson, everybody responds quality.
Helping builders and contractors craft their legacy. Anderson, the #1 trusted window and door brand. Claims based on 2022 Anderson brand surveys of U.S. contractors and builders.
Hi, welcome to Staples. Hi, my son's teacher emailed his back-to-school list. He needs crayons and a comp book for every subject.
Okay, no problem. With Staples Hot Deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items for back to school.
Oh, now they're saying he needs folders and glue.
You got it.
And markers?
Of course.
Oh, geez.
Can we get a cart, please?
Save big on back to school with Staples Hot Deals. Right now, 24-pack Crayola crayons and comp books are only 50 cents each at Staples. Ends 8/24, in-store only, limit 30.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now, when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your basement and damaging your home. Mold, cracks, and of course visible water are just a few signs your basement is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. BQ Basements and Concrete is now Groundworks. Go to groundworks.com now. License number PA 158514.
When breaking sports news happens in Philly, we have you covered. Live updates, press conferences, insight, perspective, and your reaction. This is 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. WPEN and WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. This is Kincade and Salciunas, Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic.
It is 8:01 on Kincade and Salciunas on this beautiful Monday morning. I hope you have a nice, safe trip into work today. Coming up this segment, I got to ask you if I did a little bit of a violation or not.
Uh-oh.
With the missus. I'll ask you. I know you're not a married man. Tom, I know you're engaged. But I think we can all relate to certain things.
Yeah.
And I need to know if it was a violation or not.
Okay. Well, Tom's probably the better option to give you the right answer, but I can give you the wrong one.
No, I don't think you're wrong, whatever your answer is. I just got to ask you. I'm going to ask you guys a question in a couple minutes.
I'm intrigued.
Also, we have today's headlines with Tom Alvord coming up at 8:05. But here's what we're talking about today. Nick Sirianni ranked 15th among coaches in the NFL, according to CBS. Jalen Hurts ranked 13th among quarterbacks on ESPN, but not voted on by Stephen A. Smith. Voted on by coaches and scouts and executives in the NFL. So our questions for Nick Sirianni: do we evaluate Sirianni fairly or not? Because 2 years ago, he was the best coach in the NFL, and people would have taken him over Andy Reid. Last year, he doesn't know anything. I remember people saying, I believe it was Tyrone, I found out that he does not know anything about offense. And I kind of agree with Tyrone on that. But we can't go from he's the greatest thing ever to this guy doesn't know the sport of football in just 1 year.
Why can't we? That's basically what happened.
That is what happened, but should we do that? Like, are we being fair? Like, what if they bounce back this year? I know
and we bounce back.
Yeah, but I know what I'm going to do. It was all Kellen Moore. It was all Vic Fangio. It had nothing to do with Nick Sirianni. And I don't know if that's fair or not. I really don't, even though that's how I know I am going to feel. So do we evaluate Nick Sirianni fairly? Yes or no? 610-632-0975. And Jalen Hurts is 13th. 13th. Do we overrate Jalen Hurts? We had a caller who is a Jets fan who has Hurts second. That's crazy. I think 13th is too low. But do we think too highly of him when we're having conversations of him being fifth? When scouts, executives, and coaches, not us, have him 13th.
There's a reason, and it's a deeper explanation, so we'll save it for when we get back into that. But there's a reason why I think one of those lists is significantly more accurate than the other.
Okay, and I'm looking forward to you explaining. But for context, again, Patrick Mahomes finished first, but somebody did, among those people that were interviewed, rank him second behind Josh Allen, which is stupid. Just dumb. I think you're right. We should find out who that person is, and that person should be fired on the spot because that means they would take Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes, and that's just dumb.
Hang on. Patrick Mahomes, who beats the brakes off Josh Allen in every postseason, every time.
But here's where the parity comes into play. Joe Burrow ranked second. His lowest ranking was 7th. Josh Allen came in third. His highest ranking first. His lowest ranking 6th. Lamar Jackson finished 4th. His highest ranking 2nd. His lowest 5th. Matthew Stafford finished 5th. His highest, somebody actually put him 3rd, which is
nuts.
Absurd.
Right.
His lowest ranking 10th. Justin Herbert comes in 6th. His highest ranking 3rd. His lowest ranking was out of the top 10.
I love that person.
CJ Stroud finishes 7th. His highest ranking 2nd. His lowest ranking out of the top 10.
Second is insane.
It is insane.
That's another firing.
Aaron Rodgers 8th. His highest ranking 3rd. His lowest ranking out of the top 10. Jared Goff comes in at 9. His highest ranking was 5th. His lowest was out of the top 10. Dak Prescott comes in 10th. His highest ranking 7th. His lowest ranking out of the top 10. One guy's 2nd and 7th. One guy's 3rd and 8th. One guy's 4th and out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Like, it is amazing that the quarterback play is kind of all over the place. And that's why I don't know how much stock I should take in a Hurts being 13th. But I do wonder if we overrate him a teensy tiny bit. We'll continue that conversation coming up. 610-632-0975, the number to call in or text in. But it's time now for today's headlines with Tom Alvord.
Today's headlines with
Tom Alvord.
There you go. What's up, Tom?
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Doing great.
So obviously a disappointing weekend for the Philadelphia Phillies coming off of that huge sweep of the Los Angeles Dodgers just a couple days prior. We had a little bit of Phillies injury news, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on. We also had something that you guys didn't get a chance to react to on air, something that happened Friday afternoon. The Philadelphia Phillies released Whit Merrifield, the guy that they signed, obviously, for the 1 year, $9 million contract. Yep. I believe earlier on, a guy who was supposed to be a big bench piece. People were really excited about it, myself as well. He is released after hitting 199 on the season with just 3 home runs. Rob Thompson talked about it a little bit on Friday.
It's difficult. And it's not just that. It's the person, the teammate, the guy in the clubhouse, and it's very, very difficult to balance that out. And I personally really liked him a lot. And I've done farm director, field coordinator. I've had many, many releases and had to fire many, many people. And this is one of the tougher ones I've had.
Why is that?
Just the person.
So this is the 3rd straight year it's happened. They did it with Didi Gregorius in 2022, Josh Harrison in 2023. There were some rumors and rumblings that it would happen. Were you surprised it actually was done?
I was surprised it was actually done because of the $9 million tag. But then I remembered that John Middleton is an incredible owner.
And very rich.
But no, there are teams that wouldn't have done it. They're all rich. Every team, every owner that owns a baseball, basketball, football, or soccer team or hockey team is a rich man. I'm shocked that they did it, but then I remember how great of an owner John Middleton is, and it tells me that Dave Dombrowski is clearly in the market for multiple spots now.
Absolutely. And I was more shocked, not so much because of the price tag, but because the resume is still so strong for Whit Merrifield.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me you have belief that a guy who's a 3-time All-Star, who's been near the top of the American League in hits and average and stuff in his career, they were going to give him the rest of the season to say, hey, maybe in a lesser role he'll figure this out, I would not call you crazy. But this also tells me I think that they're going to be more aggressive at the trade deadline than I initially thought.
All right. And oh, by the way, I do that signing 100 times out of 100.
100%. Yes.
Like, there's going to be a lot of revisionist history, which we should not do. I would make that signing 100 times out of 100.
Yeah.
A guy that could play anywhere, a guy that could be a starter, a guy that could come off the bench, and a guy that has had, to your point, the success with the resume. I do that signing 100 times out of 100.
Just doesn't work out.
I'm stunned. I am more shocked that he played as poorly as he did than the Phillies releasing him.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And you know what's going to happen here. The Braves are going to pick him up, and he's going to hit 340 the rest of the way.
That's why you got to do that.
All right, we got some other NBA news, actually. Big-time NBA news that happened this weekend. Jalen Brunson agrees on a 4-year, $156.5 million extension, $113 million less guaranteed than he was eligible to receive if he waited 1 year. Adrian Wojnarowski was joining a summer league game. I don't remember which one it was. My apologies. But he talked a little bit about the Brunson extension.
Jalen Brunson made a decision you do not see, not just in the NBA, but really maybe in anywhere in pro sports, especially in the era of the max contract. He essentially took a 4-year deal this year that allows the Knicks, as opposed to waiting until next year, when he would have been guaranteed $113 million more. Doing that, he allows the Knicks to stay under that second apron you hear about, but to give them the flexibility with their roster and their payroll to not just keep this team together, but to be able to continue to make moves.
So first of all, as an engineer of the Sixers game, effects were way too loud in that game. Too much sneaker squeaking. The second thing, thoughts on Brunson taking a hometown discount?
We would all celebrate it if a Sixers player did that. If Joel Embiid did it, Tyrese Maxey did it, Paul George did it, James Harden did it, and Ben Simmons did it. We all would have celebrated it. I can't believe he actually did it.
Yeah, listen, it's a great move for that team. I'm not going to call it like selfless because he's still going to be making over $100 million on this contract. Unbelievable money compared to what any of us could have ever imagined making. That being said, ban him from basketball.
Well,
how in the world is the NBAPA supposed to allow him to do this?
That's the big thing. We would all celebrate it, but then we would go, man, how does this affect the NBA Players Association? Like, I hope you're not listening, Saquon Barkley. You were a turncoat last year in the NFL. Remember, he was one of the running backs that was going to hold out.
Yeah.
They had that coup, right? They were all going to fake injuries. He basically got like $5 more and said, "Oh, okay, I'm good."
Yes, man.
And that messed up running back contracts. Jalen Brunson doing that is going to mess up a lot of things in the NBA.
Right. And
I'm sure there are some players that are like, bro, what are you doing?
I can't believe somebody didn't step in. And I get why he did it. And I'm sure there are other athletes along the line that were like considering doing this, not just in basketball, football, and any of these salary cap sports, hockey, that decided not to because they knew that for the good of the other players in the sport, you need to continue to up the salary so guys can earn what they deserve. And instead, he decided to say, screw the other guys in the league. I'm going to take less money to help my team win, which I understand if you're a Knicks fan is great. And if you're Jalen Brunson or his teammates is awesome. He's probably a very beloved guy in New York City right now.
I'm sure.
But everywhere else should hate him for doing that.
Right, absolutely. All right, Tom.
Last one here. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the rankings, both quarterback and head coach in the NFL. We also got into our side topic, and for those that are just tuning in, here is today's side topic.
We know that sports, other than football, have very long seasons. Baseball is 162 games, 82 in the NHL and the NBA. It's a long, long, long season. There are things that probably shouldn't bother us that do. So I want to ask you guys, what is something in sport where it probably shouldn't bother you, but it does?
And another one popped into my head.
Okay.
And we saw it last night. Position players, pitching. We always have an uproar about it. We always freak out. Oh, they should just concede. They should just forfeit. It's never going to happen. There's a reason that Major League Baseball teams do it. It's to save their arms. That's something we always freak out about. We saw it last night with Garrett Stubbs, and in reality, it really doesn't mean
But I
much.
agree with the just concede the game.
But they're never going to do it.
You also tried to concede.
The record books.
You tried to concede a Stanley Cup Finals that went to a Game 7.
Great point.
Who won?
Oh, don't do
But
that.
think about the memories we got.
The team that was up 3-0 won. So what did it matter?
How fun of a series was it,
It was
though?
a fun series, but the team that was up 3-0 won. So
All right.
what did it matter?
Those are today's headlines.
If you don't like a position player pitching, I don't think you like fun. It's just
Get the
you don't
hell
have to
outta
watch the
here.
game. Just turn the game off. It's as simple as that.
It's entertaining. Are we okay? Let me ask you something. What's the event going on tonight at 8 p.m.? We're carrying it on these
Home
airwaves.
Run Derby.
Are we going to watch that? Are we going to enjoy the home run derby? Guys getting meatball fastballs and hitting them 1 billion miles into the air. It is definitively, objectively entertaining.
But here's what's funny to me, right? So they would never allow games to just be conceded because of what?
The statistics
and record books and
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So you'd rather, due to the sanctity of the game, finish the game. But Zach Geloff can hit a grand slam off of Garrett Stubbs.
Yeah.
Right?
I got you.
How is that sanctity of the game? When his career is over, and I hope he hits 800 home runs, Zach Geloff, household name. We all know who Zach Geloff is, right?
Right.
When he hits 800 home runs, nobody's going to say, well, one of those was off of Garrett Stubbs.
It's like Johan Rojas' first home run in his career was off a position player.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think Derek Hall had one too that might have been his first.
that's not a real home run, but nobody's going to say anything, but we'll complain if we concede the final at bat. The final 3 innings of a game.
I just don't think
3
teams will
outs of a
ever
game.
do it. Teams will never do it.
No, I know.
They'll never be allowed to.
But it's kind of ridiculous that there is an uproar that you can't do that, but we'll let Garrett Stubbs throw 45-mile-an-hour meatballs, which is not what really happens in the game. It's not. That's not real pitching. That's
Right.
just, here you go, hit it as hard as you can.
You're absolutely right. It's hypocritical, or I guess I don't know what word you want to use to describe it. But you're
hypocritical, sure.
You're right. I'll always root for the more entertaining option. And if you're saying either you walk off the field
you
and
know
say
what
the
could be
game's
the
over,
more entertaining option? Putting on Game of Thrones or something, because the game's over. Moving on to whatever you want to watch, because the game's over. You
I'll
don't
have
feel the
time
need
after.
to watch Garrett Stubbs pitch.
I'll have time after. It was a 1:00 game or 1:35
Did you
game.
watch that entire thing? I turned it off immediately.
Oh yeah, I watched till the end.
It's not entertaining. It's entertaining for 2
that's
seconds.
not entertaining at all.
The first 2 pitches, you're like, all right, this is stupid. And then you turn.
He threw 137 miles an hour.
You're
Yeah,
the
that's
only
horrible.
one.
Sitting there laughing at it.
The only Philly
That's
fan
not
to
true.
watch
There
that.
were there were people in the stands till the bitter end, probably because they thought they were going to get a
Were they
souvenir.
watching? Yeah, exactly. They weren't watching.
If they weren't watching, they almost got smoked by a homer.
All right, we'll get back to our sports discussions, but speaking of Game of Thrones and violations, I have a question for you.
Okay, I did not watch last night's yet, so don't.
No, neither did I. Neither did I.
Okay.
There's a reason why. So, again, I like that I have 2 different perspectives. I got the single bachelor, who anybody who would want to go on a date with Connor Thomas should. All right? You'd be dumb if you didn't.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I got Tom Alvord, who's an engaged man, and then you got the washed-up married dude with a kid over here. So, yesterday, House of the Dragon episode 5 is coming out, right? We missed 2 episodes because of our trip to Lithuania. All week long, I'm trying to get her to watch an episode or 2, or at least one of the 2. I'm too tired. I'm still jet lagged. I'm still trying to catch up. Blah blah blah. Then Friday night, I'm like, all right, Friday night. She had last minute plans with her girlfriends to go out to eat. I'm like, all right, see ya. Saturday, we're down the shore, right? We're hanging out with my parents, so we're not going to watch it. They don't watch the show. And then yesterday comes. I don't know. I'm too tired. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be 3 episodes behind. All right? We have to watch one. So we're watching it. All of a sudden, I hear this.
Oh, no.
And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, mother. I was like, do I pause it? Or do I keep watching? I said, you know what? I'm midway through. I'll finish it, and then I'll rewatch the second half with her tomorrow or something. So I finish it. You know, these shows, the cliffhangers are amazing.
Oh, you watched another.
I still had another episode to watch. So I put it on. in the middle of the episode, it was the one that was rated really highly, right?
Yes.
At one point, there was a loud noise in the show. Hey, you're still watching? I'm like, yes. Yes, I'm still watching. It's 8 o'clock. It's 8:30. Like, it's not even 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, go upstairs. Go to bed. So I finished watching the other one. Now, I know another episode dropped last night. I did not watch it, but I'm now 2 ahead. Do I just keep going? Do I watch? Because here's the thing. I don't want to be in the trap where my algorithm is House of the Dragon, and I see all these spoilers all the time, and I don't want to see these things anymore. So I might go home today after I do the yard work in the 99-degree heat and reward myself with watching the latest episode, which would now be 3 ahead of her. That's not my fault. I'm different, man. I go through the grind. I'm built different. I'm tired, too. I had jet lag, too. I don't want to miss this show.
You're right, but you went about it the wrong way.
Why?
Because you were in too easy of a situation to get caught watching it with her sleeping right there. What you should have done, like, once you get to an unreasonable amount of, I'm too tired to watch the show, go watch it yourself. And you watch, and then you rewatch, and you just have to play like it's the first time you ever seen it. You got to act surprised at the surprising part.
But she was asleep on the couch, so what was I going to do?
No, you should have done it before you even got to Sunday. Once you're like 2-3 days in of asking her, you should have gone on your own.
Smart.
And when she wasn't, you guys have different work schedules.
Yes.
Crush a couple episodes. Watch it back with her. If she falls asleep, so be it. You've already seen it. Give her the time and just secretly be ahead. So that you just have to live in secret with House of the Dragon.
Living a life of lies is what you're living.
Well, only for it's only eight episode season.
White lie don't kill anybody.
Last night you were fine. That's no problem because you mentioned it. The cliffhangers is something you really wanted to watch. I have no issue.
And I've been asking for a freaking week.
It is an issue if you watch last night's episode, however, with that. You got to give her a couple days to catch up. If she's not caught up by
couple days? It's been a week, Tom.
No.
We're 3. She's 3 behind.
You give her till Wednesday or Thursday to catch up. She hasn't caught up by then you watch whatever you want.
See, that's an engaged man right there.
Yeah, I know.
That hasn't dealt with it long enough. And one day, 5 years down the line, you're going to have missed like 14 shows because of Jess. You're going to be, I'm going to watch it.
Here's the problem, Connor. In our relationship, we have watched 3 shows together.
Okay.
Game of Thrones, but I didn't watch it until it was done. I never saw an episode. Okay. She was pregnant. We didn't really, we weren't going out partying, so we watched Game of Thrones together.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Lasso, and now House of the Dragon.
Gotcha.
So it's not like we've don't worry.
So don't ruin it.
Dude, she's ruining it, not me.
That's true.
And here's the problem. We didn't finish The Bear. I'm now watching it by myself because she's Finbar Caladamus for you Jimmy Neutron fans out there. She never finishes anything, right? So I'm now watching this by that was a pull.
A deep cut Jimmy Neutron reference is something.
So now I'm watching The Bear by myself. I've now watched 2 episodes of House of the Dragon by myself. Cobra Kai comes out this week. I got to be ready for it.
Listen, you've got an angel on one of your shoulders
comes out this
and
week,
a
brother.
devil on the other between Tom and I, and you can decide who's who. But I think it's pretty clear who's who.
This is just unbelievable that we're 3 days behind, or 3 shows behind.
Sometimes you got to be a you guy.
I'm caught up except for last night. All right, coming up next. I'm sorry. I got to vent with my guys here. You guys, I need your help. Coming up next, we'll get back to the discussions on hand and the unofficial end of the first half of the season. We're over halfway through. But the MLB All-Star Game is tomorrow night. The Home Run Derby is tonight. We'll give out some rewards for the MVP and much other for the Phillies because it's been a hell of a season. We'll get into that as the show continues. It's Kincade and Salciunas, Connor, and for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
All-Star Weekend is here. I'm Tom Alvord, and this update is brought to you by Worldwide Stereo, cinema quality video, jaw-dropping music, and enchanting lighting.
Earth.com.
It is 8:29 on Kincade and Salciunas. I hope you're having a safe trip into work this morning. Show number 86 of Kincade and Salciunas. We'll be at 100 in August.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Will there be a big party thrown for us?
I think we'll get cake. What, do you not want cake?
Cake's fine.
Yeah. I'm not so much a cakesman.
I was thinking like renting out like a big hotel and
like throw like a
huge party. Yeah. You know,
if we want to.
I was thinking we have it in the budget, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Something big. Speaking of big parties, coming up Saturday, September 28th at Xfinity Live, we have Fan Fest presented by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. We have a ticket raid coming up 8 days from now. All right, Tuesday, July 23rd at 9 a.m. Set your alarms. Go to 975thefanatic.com for your chance to win the pair of tickets during our ticket raid 8 days from now, Tuesday, July 23rd, 9 a.m. It's the biggest part of the year for Philadelphia sports fans. Obviously, the website has all the information. Can't wait for another year of Fan Fest. Okay, Phillies. We've been talking a lot of Eagles today. We'll get back to the Eagles conversation because it's an amazing one, and we have some texts on it that Jalen Hurts among executives, coaches, and scouts. Not Tom, Andrew, and Connor. Not Stephen A. Smith. This was from ESPN. Jeremy Fowler interviewed and got votes from executives, coaches, and scouts. And I take more stock into this one. And not, this isn't like, see, Jalen Hurts. I take more stock into this one than the player polls because I don't think the players, like these guys actually have to scout the league and coach and watch tape and watch film. And if they see them on the schedule, they have to actually be prepared for it. Like, I hate the player polls. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah, because they're not watching. They play. They don't have. I love when players talk about their fantasy football teams. Like, dude, you're on the field.
Right, exactly. How do you know? Right. But you see statistics, and that's it.
But even these executives, I was talking with Brendan Gunn about it, too. Because even if, like, let's say his example was if the Raiders aren't playing the Eagles, they're probably not watching too much. I'm like, well, if the Eagles play a team that the Raiders are playing,
yes,
then you're going to watch how they attack them. So these guys see a lot of tape on everything.
Right, absolutely. They see what worked, what didn't work against those teams, and they eventually watch the Eagles. Right, they do. So Jalen Hurts coming in 13th, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the Phillies go to the All-Star break. It was obviously not a fun way to end the unofficial first half of the season when they lose 18-3 to the A's. But Tom sent us an interesting question this morning, and we could do a couple of things off of the Phillies' unofficial end of the first half. But who is the team's MVP? And I find this harder to answer. Last year, I thought it was clearly Nick Castellanos. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that Nick Castellanos was the Phillies MVP up until the All-Star break. Look, he was an All-Star last season, but there was also a lot of reasons to it. There were injuries to Bryce Harper. Rhys Hoskins was obviously out for the season. Trey Turner had not been playing very well at all. And remember what we all said when Hoskins got hurt. Oh, my God, they have to trade for a right-handed bat because there's nobody on this roster other than Trey Turner that will be able to hit well from the right side. Because we all wrote off Nick Castellanos. He ended up having a great season last year and was the team's MVP, I would say, year-long. But up until the All-Star break, no question, no debate, he was the team's MVP. This one's a little harder this year.
There's a lot of debate.
Because you have 8 now All-Stars, if you count Christopher Sanchez, even though he wasn't an original All-Star, he's now replacing Ranger Suarez or Zach Wheeler, whoever you want to say he's replacing. You have 8 All-Stars, but you've had so many injuries. Like, Trey Turner is batting .900, but I can't give it to Trey Turner. He missed too much time.
Right.
So who would it be? Turner's missed time. Real Muto's missed time now. Harper, I don't think, has missed enough. Schwarber, I don't think, has missed enough to take them out of the ranking. And then can you name one specific starter and MVP when they've all pitched so well?
Right.
So who would your team MVP? And this is great that it's hard to answer because that means they're playing very well.
I mean, I don't know. You know, every Eagles conversation about the offense, we have to say, like, disregard Jalen Hurts because he's the answer to everything. Is Bryce Harper just always going to be the best player on this team? Like,
he might be.
That's kind of where I'm living at right now.
I think best and MVP is different, though. Like, he's always going to be the best player, but...
Here's the thing. How do you give it to... Like, how do you make the argument against Bryce Harper? The argument against Trey Turner is he was hurt.
Yeah, he's played 57 games.
Like, the argument against JT is he was hurt. The argument against starters, they pitch once every 5 days. Like, you cannot make a feasible argument against Bryce Harper.
No. So Castellanos has played every game, obviously. He's played 96 games. Alec Boehm has played 94, and Boehm would be in the conversation, I would say. Bryce Harper's played 81. So are you really going to dock him for missing 15 games this year? I don't think so. I think he's played enough games to be in the conversation, and he has been your best player. He's got 21 home runs, 21 doubles, 61 RBI, and he's hitting 301 on the season, which is insane. 76 strikeouts to 53 walks. So, he's pretty close. Whereas like a guy like Nick Castellanos has 91 strikeouts to 27 walks. Like, you see the big difference there.
But Boehm has unbelievable numbers too.
Right. So Boehm was my first thought if it wasn't Bryce Harper. Has missed only 2 games, played 94 games. He's hitting 295, and that's down from where it was earlier in the year. He's driven in 70 RBIs, so 9 more than Bryce Harper. He's hit 10 less home runs, but he's hit 12 more doubles. So he's made up for the lack of home runs with 33 doubles. He's still leading the league with doubles, by the way, 33. Yes. So leads the league in doubles. The RBI thing, 9 more ribbies, but he's also played in 13 more games. So that's probably why he's also has more RBI. Like, it's probably Harper.
You can't make a feasible argument why it's not, but you can make a lot of arguments for another player.
Right.
That's the fun thing.
Like, you could make the argument for Trey Turner. I just wouldn't give it to him because he's missed as many games as he has, but he's been ridiculous in the games that he's played.
How many players could you make an argument for?
Oh, right now?
Yeah. You could do it for Harper. You could do it for Turner. You could do it for Boehm. You could do it for Wheeler, Suarez, maybe Sanchez.
You could make it for some of the guys in the bullpen.
Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman.
Like, those guys definitely deserve to be in the conversation. I know a reliever will never win a league MVP. It's come close, but I don't think we're ever going to see that again.
How about this? They've had 8 All-Stars this year. Is it 8 players? Like, is that as deep as the list goes?
It might be more.
It could be more because
is there a bizarre world where you could talk about Edmundo Sosa setting the tone for how you replace star players?
No, I can't do that.
Listen. We talked about Nick Castellanos. One of the arguments you made.
Just said Turner's played only 57 games, which is why he's out of it. Sosa's played 57 games.
But one of the arguments you made about Nick Castellanos last year for why he was so good ahead of the All-Star break is that he was big in a spot where the Philadelphia Phillies really needed to be. It wasn't so much that he was hitting like 340 and unbelievable and all these bombs.
He was.
Other people struggled. He stepped up.
Right, but he stepped up a lot. Whereas, Sosa, it's been great. He's been great.
That's the right answer.
It's a great piece, but
I'm testing the limits of how far we'll go with who's
274 with 5 home runs. It's not Edmundo Sosa, but like,
fair enough.
You could put Schwarber in the conversation because he's got the second most home runs on the team. He's got the 3rd most RBIs on the team, right? So, like, he's also in the conversation.
Average-wise, he's been much better.
Much better. So it's probably Bryce Harper, but it's not, like, an easy answer because you've been so successful this season. Who would be the Cy Young on this team?
Who knows? All of them.
Like, that's the thing. Like, my first immediate thought is Zach Wheeler. Now, is that because Ranger Suarez has had 4 straight bad outings?
Yeah.
Probably. Like, if he continued to pitch at that clip, it's an easy answer that it's Ranger Suarez. I don't necessarily know that it's an easy answer that it's Zach Wheeler. I go Wheeler. I don't really think twice about it because the guy's just consistently dominant. But it's still a hard conversation to have because you blink and Aaron Nola's having a good season too.
Yeah, I think Wheeler's kind of in that zone where he's almost lower on the totem pole because of the expectation he does it every time. Like, we don't appreciate Zach Wheeler, and I can't blame anybody, but it's hard to appreciate Zach Wheeler when he's just so consistently good over and over. You just count on it.
I don't think the league appreciates it enough. I've said this.
I think they will by the end of this year.
I know, but I've said it a lot. I don't think he gets enough love nationally, and I've gotten some pushback on that in the past. I think Bob Nightingale, somebody was on with Kevin not that long ago. Tom, you would know because I think he was.
He usually has Nightingale, yeah. He's had him a couple times.
And he said something like, nationally, people still aren't talking about him enough, which I think is crazy.
I would take Wheeler in a Game 7 World Series scenario. You have one starter. I'm taking Wheeler over anybody in baseball. Over Strider, over Corbin Burns. He has done it in the regular season. He has done it in the regular
backed it up
season.
In the playoffs.
He's done it in the playoffs as well.
There's one guy.
Shohei?
Nope.
Who?
He's starting the All-Star game
Paul
for the
Skeens.
National League.
Okay, the
Paul
guy's
Skeens,
11 starts in his career.
Dude, 11 ridiculous starts in his career.
Never played in the playoffs ever.
Honestly, dude, I'm so glad he's starting the All-Star
agree.
game.
Yeah.
I know that people were upset by it because he just came up this year. I think it's great for baseball, number one, that he's starting in the All-Star game. He also deserves it, dude. That guy has been freaking ridiculous.
And I've been a Paul Skeens hater because I think he got a lot of national love before he truly looked like he deserved it, but now he's completely.
You know why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he definitely deserves the nod, and I think it's great for baseball that he is given the nod. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Coming up next, we're going to get back to our text line. Jalen Hurts ranked 13th among executives, coaches, and scouts in the NFL among quarterbacks. Not 13th overall player, 13th among quarterbacks. My question for you guys today at 610-632-0975, do we overrate him? And I'm sure that we do, and we should. He's our franchise quarterback, and you don't want your franchise quarterback to be 13th. But are we missing something? Now, I do believe that some of these quarterbacks ahead of him are ridiculous. But I say that in the same breath where Nick Sirianni is ranked 15th among coaches, and I think we're all out on Sirianni, or most Eagles fans are. And I think 15th is too low. I think he should be higher. I think they should both be higher. I'll remind you what the lists say in front of us on ESPN and CBS coming up next, and get your text message reaction, 610-632-0975. It's Kincade and Salciunas, Connor and for John today right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. John out today. He'll be back in tomorrow. Connor in his chair today. Tom Alvord producing the show. You know that Dove Kleiman fella?
Yeah.
The big aggregator on Twitter? Look, man makes a living off of it, which is crazy. But, anyways.
Apparently he sold his account, by the way.
I know. I saw. He probably made a bunch of money for it. So, the latest tweet that I saw from Dove Kleiman. Really? And this is right in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
NFL legend Terrell Owens just hit a home run at 50 years old. What a beast. In slow pitch softball.
Hey, bro, he almost put that out of the actual fence, too. And did you see his swing? Like, not
It's
to get
horrible.
too into this.
A horrible swing.
Miserable.
Horrible
That is
swing.
the worst swing that produced a good result that I think I've ever seen.
Like, don't get me wrong. That dude's 50 years old and is in better shape than I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
So, like, that guy's jacked and would beat up 18-year-old Andrew, 21-year-old Andrew, 30-year-old Andrew, right? He's beating up every era of Andrew Salciunas. Like, I could hit a home run in a slow pitch charity softball game.
Yeah, the fence is like 200 feet.
Right. So, like, what are they, like, oh, my God, it's so great.
Yeah, no, it's a dumb thing to have a tweet on that account about.
That swing is awful.
It's
My
a
God, look at
horrible
the first time.
It kind of looks like Hurts' swing.
There's no balance.
Remember when Hurts did batting practice at Citizens Bank Park? His swing was horrible, but he was able to hit it deep because he's just strong.
He's an athlete.
He's an athlete. Yeah.
But it's just, that's the most impressive thing about it is that bad of a swing hit a ball off a wall in a major league ballpark.
Right.
But also, for anyone out there who's seeing that and trying to make the argument, oh, I could luck into a home run. You know you can't.
In slow pitch softball?
No. Seeing that and saying, oh, that bad swing, even slow. There's someone who's going to see that and say, oh, see, if you're just strong, it makes it easy, whether it's softball or baseball.
You might be able to in slow pitch softball.
In softball, yes. In baseball, no.
Yeah, in baseball, absolutely not. Okay, so what do we have on the text line there, Tommy? If you're just tuning in, we've been reacting to two rankings. CBS Sports put out their head coach rankings. Nick Sirianni came in 15th. Quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts on ESPN.com, voted on by people inside the league, coaches, scouts, and executives, not players and not members of ESPN, coaches, scouts, and executives that work in the NFL. Jalen Hurts was not even in the top 10. He was listed as an honorable mention behind Brock Purdy and Jordan Love. So we are saying today that Jalen Hurts was ranked 13th. What are the people saying on the text line, Tom?
Yeah, so we got a bunch of Hurts ones. We'll start with a positive one. Are these the same coaches, execs, and scouts that had Hurts pegged as a third-round pick? Who gives a bleep what they think? A third of them will be fired 365 days from now. Hurts will not. That's Ryan in Florida.
That's a great point by Ryan. And, look, he's right. Now, Tom Brady was a sixth-round pick and ended up being the greatest quarterback of all time. Things happen. But, yes, to Ryan's point, and as Connor has said numerous times, there are a lot of I can't say dumb.
No, but they're not a lot of dumb. But assuming none of them are dumb is crazy.
Executives and scouts.
You get any group of people together on this planet, there's going to be a couple dumb ones in there.
There's the one dude, I think Mike Tannenbaum or something, who's on Get Up, who's on ESPN, who was a former executive. Some of his takes that he's had, and listen, like we all have takes, but
we played one on this show when he said,
awful.
If Patrick Mahomes is off the table and he would start a team today, Jordan Love's his first pick.
That's a former executive.
And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, I like Jordan Love. I saw him make some throws that literally looked like Rodgers in the playoffs last year off his back foot, throwing darts. I was like, wow, this guy might actually be really good. But to have him as your second quarterback off the board is ridiculous. And a lot of his coworkers back that up because he's voted on as an honorable mention, not even the top 10.
I just realized something here. Where in the world is our boy Trevor Lawrence?
I'm
told shocked he wasn't in the top 10.
He's behind Hurts.
Okay.
It's the honorable mentions in order. Brock Purdy, so that's why we're saying he's 11th, Jordan Love 12th. Hurts, Tua, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence.
You talk about that prototypical quarterback that I was positive Lawrence would be in the top 10.
Yeah. And yet Herbert is 5 and Trevor Lawrence.
No, Herbert's 6 because Stafford was 5th,
Right,
which is
6,
still crazy.
and then Trevor Lawrence.
Here's what they say about
These guys have no
Here's
clue.
what they say about Trevor Lawrence. Surprisingly, last year's number 8 quarterback fell 8 spots in the voting. So he does call him 16th. Okay, so we're right to say 13th. Turnovers are the primary issue. He has 60 through 3 seasons, including a league-high 21 last year, 14 interceptions, 7 fumbles. Though team sources caution he barely practiced over the last 2 months of the season due to various injuries that he attempted to tough out, which is true, but did all those 21 turnovers happen in the last couple weeks of the season? No.
I don't think so.
Quote from an AFC scout, I think people are tired of waiting on him. I do think he'll put it all together eventually. He should be in the top 10. A veteran NFL personnel evaluator added by saying he's going to be a little streaky and have moments where he disappears, but when he gets hot, Jacksonville is dangerous.
See, it would be nice if there was some data point we could use where, I don't know, Trevor Lawrence played Justin Herbert with something on the line and be able to look at how that game turned out.
He beat Justin Herbert.
Oh, right.
And Brandon Staley's a horrible,
major choke job.
Horrible head coach.
And all this, what are we talking about?
They mentioned
here?
streaky. Where have we seen a Lawrence hot streak?
We haven't really. He was pretty good against the Eagles in that game 2 years ago when it was raining for the first half, and then he was horrible the whole second half of the game.
Down the stretch into the playoffs that year, they beat the Chargers. I think he went on a run.
Yeah, but that was
really good.
that was the only one we've seen.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, give us another text, Tom.
All right, we got a negative one here when it comes to Hurts. No name, unfortunately. 13 isn't bad for Hurts. It's because he had the best O-line and top weapons in the league and still didn't play great last year. What does he look like with less talent and O-line? Can you honestly say he would be better than Prescott, ?
I think he's better than Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott has better arm talent.
Yes.
And I don't think that's, how could you say that about a Cowboys quarterback? Dak Prescott has better arm talent. That doesn't mean he's a better quarterback. Josh Allen has the strongest arm in the league. He is not better than Patrick Mahomes because he makes horrible decisions at times. It's like Brett Favre. Brett Favre was a very talented quarterback. Borderline moron.
Borderline. Yeah.
In real life and in football. But that interception on first down that Brian Dawkins picked off where it was basically a punt, that's stupid. That's actually a very dumb decision that Brett Favre made, regardless of how talented he is.
That's why, then this goes back to the argument that I want to make about why the coaches list seems to be a lot more accurate than the quarterbacks.
So that's how we'll start the 9 o'clock hour. And we'll remind you of everyone, where everyone is at, what they have said about Sirianni, what they said about Jalen Hurts. Because it's funny, Sirianni is 15th out of 32. Jalen Hurts is 13th out of 32. I think a lot of us are comfortable saying Sirianni is 15th, but a lot of people are uncomfortable saying that Hurts is 13th. I do think there's more love for Jalen Hurts than Nick Sirianni in this city, though. And that might be why we have that feeling. But we would love to get your reaction to the lists. Nick Sirianni, 15th on CBS. Jalen Hurts, 13th, voted on by coaches, executives, and scouts in the NFL. I think Ryan in Florida made a great point that these are the same coaches and scouts and executives that will be fired in a couple of years. But who knows? Those are the people that study things a lot more in depth than we do. And they have Hurts at 13. Do we overrate Jalen Hurts? 610-632-0975. And to start the 9 o'clock hour, Connor's going to explain why one list makes sense and why one doesn't. It's Kincade and Salciunas. Connor in for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic. on Kincade and Salciunas. Hope you had a nice, safe trip into work today on this Monday morning. 97.5 The Fanatic. The week of the NCAA 25 release. I just saw a video during the break. You heard it, but do you know what I was watching?
I don't.
So, Travis Hunter of Colorado.
Yes.
I think he's playing with Shedeur Sanders. I'm not exactly sure. They don't have the names on there. But they were playing Colorado versus Colorado, and Travis Hunter got sacked when he was playing as the Colorado offense. And he said, "Is the O-line realistic?" Yeah, very realistic. They can't block for nothing.
Wow.
I think
Love
Sanders
that.
was the other dude too.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Dude, what do you do? It's like Darius Slay with the I was good, but the rest of the team didn't play for you know what.
Like, do you think we're not going to see that?
Like, what are you doing, dude? You're on a live stream and you're ripping your offensive lineman.
That story was fun at the beginning of last season. I now root against them. I go out of my way to root against Colorado now.
They've become they're
on like, dude, all the stuff that goes on. Like, you don't say that if you're making a joke. You don't say that on the street.
They've come back around. It started out people were annoyed because they got publicity and didn't think they deserved it.
I didn't care that they had the publicity.
Yeah,
I thought it was really cool, actually.
Then we thought they were good.
It's jumped the shark.
And now it's come back around.
Yeah, and that's sometimes how it goes. All right, so here's what we're talking about today. And I can't wait to hear Connor explain why these lists, one is accurate and one is not. So CBS Sports ranked the coaches in the NFL, and they had 3 different classes. Class C was unproven or underwhelming. Unproven, obviously, the first-year head coaches. Underwhelming, the guys like Dennis Allen of the Saints, who has a career record of 24-46, right? He's just going to be an NFL lifer. He'll get some bridge opportunities. Even though I did find it interesting that Robert Saleh is there. I thought he would be higher, but Class B is accomplished, but with questions, and Robert Saleh has not accomplished anything. Nick Sirianni falls in this class, accomplished with questions. He comes in at 15th. He's ahead of Todd Bowles, Brian Dable, Dan Quinn, Shane Steichen, Sean Payton, Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson 16th, Sirianni is 15th. This is what they say about him. How does a guy with the second best win percentage among active coaches end up 15th just 2 years after leading the Eagles to a Super Bowl shootout with the Chiefs? It's a run-on sentence. Look no further than the 2023 collapse in which his brash personality only exasperated a 1-7 finish that included and preceded major staff upheaval with new top assistants. The pressure's on to capitalize on an all-star roster. And I think all that's fair, beginning to end, right? The fact that they do have a great winning percentage. They're in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but the collapse, his inability to help with that collapse, people being fired, and that there's pressure because of the roster. I think all that is fair. I don't think 15 is a good enough ranking for Sirianni. Here are the names he is behind. Zach Taylor of the Bengals, and I get it. When you lose your starting quarterback multiple times, that's going to be hard, but he's been without Joe Burrow a couple of times. He actually has a career record 37-44-1. He's actually below 500, but he has a Super Bowl appearance, as does Nick Sirianni.
Right, so pretty close, comparable.
And that's
guys.
why they're one spot apart. Now you go to Class A, which is best in the game. The top 13 fall into that category. After 1 year, DeMeco Ryans has already jumped up into that spot, which might be a little too soon. And I like DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, prisoner of the moment.
Kevin O'Connell, who has accomplished nothing, is 12th. And they're giving him he dealt with quarterback injuries and the vibe around the locker room was still great. I don't care.
Cool.
I don't care. They didn't make the playoffs, and the 1 year they did, they lost to the Giants. And all year long, when they finished 13-4, people call them a fraudulent 13-4 team. That's not revisionist history. People were saying that about them, and they lose to the Giants. Coming in at 11, Mike McDaniel. What has he actually accomplished? Statistics are like high-powered offense, which is true. He's 0-2 in the playoffs.
Right. Yep, high expectations. belief that he can create something, hasn't really delivered on that.
There's funny clips I see on Twitter of him.
He's funny. He's a funny guy.
And it's funny, here in Philly, it's Jalen Hurts is fine, Sirianni's not. I feel like in Miami, it's McDaniel is fine, Tua is not.
Yes, it's the opposite.
I feel like that's the way that it is. Kevin Stefanski comes in at 10. I think he should be higher. Sean McDermott at 9.
No, the only way you can make that argument is the same way that you make the argument about how Daryl Morey built the Rockets.
Okay.
That you get more credit because you're going up against a dynastic team in the Warriors. You get more credit if you're Sean McDermott because you always run into the dynastic Chiefs. I don't know that I buy it. I just have to imagine that's the argument you make.
You want to talk about the locker room issues that we had last year. It didn't seem like it was much better in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell's 8th. Harbaugh is 7th, even though he's been out of the
Jim Harbaugh.
league. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. He's been out of the league for a while. I didn't realize he was only with the 49ers for 4 years, by the way. Like, it's not like he had a 10-year career with the 49ers.
Yeah.
So for him to be 7th is a bit ridiculous. Mike Tomlin is 6th. Matt LaFleur 5th. John Harbaugh 4th. Shanahan, McVay, and Big Red comes in at number 1. No surprise there with Andy Reid. But 15th, I feel like might be too low. Jalen Hurts is 13th in the NFL quarterback rankings, voted on by coaches, scouts, and executives. So the CBS one was the CBS team. The ESPN one was voted by people inside the league, and Hurts is 13th. Connor, you explain why you believe one is legit and one isn't.
So with coaches, what is the number one way you evaluate proper coaching, good coaching? There are other things that go into it, but the ultimate decider is win, loss, record.
Yeah.
Does this coach a winning football team, or does this coach a losing football team?
Okay.
And that ultimately is that's all encompassing, right? There are some other things outside of that you have to consider. Hey, does this guy keep the locker room together? Hey, did this guy deal with not having a great quarterback? Does this guy have the talent? But ultimately,
right. That's why Kevin Stefanski should be higher up. Remember, with all the Deshaun Watson stuff, Joe Flacco's the quarterback, and they went 11-5.
So it's not perfect.
Whatever.
That's why there's points in this list that we disagree with.
Yes.
But it's a lot closer to accurate than that quarterback list, because when people evaluate quarterbacks, there's all these numbers. What's his QBR? How many yards has he thrown for? How many touchdowns to interceptions? We get caught up in all these numbers. Arm talent, prototype, all of these fancy words that we use to ultimately get you to the same thing. What's more important to a football team, the head coach or the quarterback? It's a tough question to answer.
I would say quarterback.
You could make an argument for either, but I would also lean quarterback.
Yeah.
And shouldn't that be, if they're the most important player on the team, the most important person in that locker room, including the coaching staff, shouldn't we just evaluate wins and losses significantly heavier weighted than any statistic outside of that? It's not like pitchers where your wins and losses are determined by so many guys outside of you. The quarterback has the most effect on the outcome of a game, including the head coach.
Defense is trash.
Still, listen,
not going to win as many games.
Mahomes won a Super Bowl with a trash defense.
Okay. Yeah, but Patrick Mahomes is I don't even like having Mahomes.
Understand.
I don't even like using him as an example.
I got you, but a quarterback is a great quarterback can overdo like a bad defense. We talked about last year that being the blueprint for the Eagles. It didn't work out.
It did not at all.
The offense is strong enough, and that's because you believe in Jalen Hurts. My point is, the evaluation of quarterbacks is broken because we get caught up in all these other statistics that tell part of the story, when really all you need to know is, does this guy win or does he not? I don't care how he gets there. I don't care if it's arm talent, if it's leg talent, if it's just some
as long as he's finding a
undiscernible
way to win.
Tom Brady didn't have the best arm or the best legs. He was no athlete. He had a good arm, but he didn't have the best. Manning had a better arm. Roethlisberger had a better arm. The dude won. I want a guy who can win. And sometimes it looks like Mahomes, where it's evident based on talent level and ability. And sometimes it's a guy like Hurts, where it's just like, listen, you could tell me there are parts of his game that aren't as good as this guy or that guy.
Right.
But he wins.
You could say that about any quarterback.
If that's the case, then Brock Purdy's a top 5 quarterback.
Well,
because he just wins.
And again, there's more that goes into it. It's not a perfect science, but I believe the quarterbacks list would be more accurate if you based it on something like that than where I think they're getting caught up with prototype or number of yards thrown or touchdown interception ratio. I'm not saying those things don't matter. I'm saying ultimately, if the quarterback is the biggest determinant of whether or not you win a football game, shouldn't wins and losses be the biggest determinant of whether or not you're a good quarterback?
I don't know. I don't know if I can do that, honestly.
That's how I evaluate it.
I don't know if I can just do wins and losses.
It's not just, but that should be the end-all, be-all. Like, unless you have, and there are other things that supersede it,
Well, the
right?
other thing is, are you doing wins and losses regular season, or are you also doing playoff stuff? Because I'd rather have a gamer come playoff time than
you got to count it all in.
We've talked about Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
You have Lamar as number 2, but Lamar's fallen short every year in the playoffs.
Part of that reason is reigning MVP, a guy that brought his team to the AFC Championship game last year. Yes,
okay, but then Goff, who is 9th on this list, and I think you said you would take Hurts over Goff.
I know.
That guy has won a lot.
There are clear evidences of this quarterback's better than this quarterback outside of win-loss record.
Okay.
But when it's close, when you're starting to make arguments to me about arm talent and size and the amount of yards they throw for and stuff like that, that does not supersede the wins losses on its own. If you have if you're Lamar and you're going to score a bunch of rushing touchdowns and win multiple MVPs and put your team in position to win every week, I know he hasn't had the playoff success, but that's undeniable talent. Some of these other guys are there simply on statistics.
But you could say that Justin Herbert has undeniable talent, the prototype, strong arm, all this kind of stuff.
Okay, well, he doesn't remotely win. That's the thing, and that's more important. That's weighted heavier. Lamar is good enough to outweigh that.
To win it, okay. Gotcha.
See, I personally, when it comes to me, I lean more on the potential and prototype. That's where I lean, actual talent itself. So I'm the opposite of you, Connor, where I look at it as, yes, there's only so much you can do when it comes to winning. A quarterback should be able to affect winning a lot more, and we should see more wins for guys like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. I also think of situation. If this guy was in a different situation, now it's not just let's put Justin Herbert on the Philadelphia Eagles. No, it's just what does their coaching staff look like?
Right.
What does the offensive line look like? What does the franchise, the organization as a whole look like here? Even a little bit when we talked about Hurts and all the talent he has around them. That was one of the worst coaching staffs in the league last year offensively. So when I am thinking about ranking quarterbacks, if you will, quote unquote, I do take in personally a little bit more hey, how much talent does this guy have? What does the prototypical great quarterback look like? And I kind of add that into the rankings.
You've seen Moneyball. If he's such a good hitter, then why don't he hit good?
Well, maybe he doesn't have a good franchise around him. Maybe he has a horrible O-line. Maybe he has horrible coaching. Maybe he has no weapons. What happens if he's in a little bit better of a situation? If Patrick Mahomes goes to a different situation, is he Patrick Mahomes?
Yes.
How
I
do you
think
know- how do you know
Patrick
that?
Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes on the moon, bro.
How do you know
They
that,
traded
though?
Tyreek Hill and he won the Super Bowl.
But he's with the greatest offensive mind maybe in the history of the sport.
Okay,
and the greatest tight end in the history.
I get what you're saying.
I do too, but at the same time, yes, if anybody goes anywhere, things could be different. But my main point in all of this is we get caught up too much in stuff that we think matters to get you to wins and losses rather than just looking at who wins.
And real quick, the biggest example for me, Matt Stafford was, he can't win in Detroit. He goes to a different franchise. He wins the Super
and he
Bowl.
wins.
Yeah, that's my number one example.
That's another
I totally
great point.
understand. It would probably happen with Herbert, too, if he
All
went
right,
somewhere.
so we'd love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. You can text in, you can call in. Nick Sirianni ranked 15th among NFL head coaches according to CBS, the team at CBS. Jalen Hurts ranked 13th among quarterbacks voted on by executives, coaches, and scouts. Your reaction to both of those. Do we overrate Jalen Hurts if the people that are working inside the league have him out of the top 10, and it's basically taboo to even consider that he's 10th in Philadelphia? If you say, we got yelled at by a caller because we said he was 8th and not 3rd according to that guy's list. Do we overrate Jalen Hurts, and do we undervalue Nick Sirianni? If he's finishing 15th and you look at some of the names around him, it might not be as bad as we think. I'm not sure. Or the coaching product in the NFL is just terrible, which very well could be true. You could have a very top-heavy coaching list and a very top-heavy quarterback list. There is one clear number one head coach and one clear number one quarterback. Of course, they're both on the same team.
Yeah, that sucks.
But after that, there's parity. There is no clear answer at number 2 for either one. Even coaches, there's no clear number 2. Big Red comes in clearly at number 1. The number 2 is Sean McVay. That guy almost left the league.
Right.
And is Sean McVay really the second best head coach in the NFL? I guess. But then, like Harbaugh's fourth.
Yeah.
Well, because of longevity?
And part of this does go back to the conversation that we had, and I don't want to turn it too much into this, but about the product just not being that great right now.
It's not.
Like, there aren't that many clear-cut, like, hey, this guy's great, this coach is great, this quarterback is undeniably great. Like, we have one undeniably great quarterback and then a whole lot of maybes, and we have a couple of undeniably great coaches and then a whole lot of maybes. And
yeah, a whole lot of maybes.
It's a lot of parity.
And that's the NFL. It's always kind of been that way. Philadelphia checks in. He says, my rankings have always been based on head-to-head. Last year, Hurts beat multiple quarterbacks ranked ahead of him. I know it's more involved into it, but Hurts should be around 6 to 9. His value is more important than most of these quarterbacks on that list.
That's it. That's saying
I don't know about the value thing. Like, every quarterback is valuable.
Yeah.
Like, that's in the conversation of top 15, I would say every quarterback is valuable. But I agree. He should be in that 6 to 9 range. I don't think he should be much higher, but he should not be out of the top 10.
No, and that head-to-head thing is it's part of the point that I'm making. Like, if he's a better quarterback, then why doesn't he beat Jalen Hurts? Like, I know there's other situations.
There's more to it.
There is, but in football, with quarterback, more than I think any other sport, it is just the cleanest. If you have a good one, you're a good team. If you don't have a good one, you're not.
Well, yeah, absolutely. All right, what do we have on the text line there, Tommy?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of texts on the Jalen Hurts conversation, the ranking conversation that we have been having. Let's go to this one here. No, that was not good. As for the Hurts ranking, it's the turnovers last season. With Saquon in the backfield as a safety valve, sometimes there'll be less turnovers.
If he goes to it.
If he goes, yeah, of course. And with the new offensive coordinator, Jalen will be better.
I think that's the biggest thing. Like, Kellen Moore alone should probably get him up in the ranks. I do believe that. And I do believe that checkdowns sometimes need to be coached into you instead of trying to play hero ball. It's funny, like, we don't necessarily rip Hurts for it, but we ripped Wentz for it. Like,
so bad,
they do the exact same thing. There's a lot of similarities, and not just like potential locker room issues. I'm saying turnovers, hero ball. In that playoff game when he runs back 14 yards to get sacked in the end zone for a safety, like, that's something that Carson Wentz would have done, and we would have made fun of Carson Wentz for it. There are a lot of similarities. Do I trust Jalen Hurts more than Carson Wentz? Absolutely, I do.
Yeah, is the difference just the makeup of the guy, though?
Maybe. I think Wentz has a stronger arm.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference is we saw Wentz do it year after year, those same mistakes. We really saw Jalen have those issues the 1 year. If it happens this year, then I think that conversation is had,
right,
yes.
Right, but like the turnover issues, it was an issue last year, but he should still be in the top 10 even with those issues.
And if he's not higher than 13 next year, we got a problem.
Then that means something bad happened. Right, absolutely. All right, let's go to Keith in Bucks County who wants to talk a little Phillies. We also opened up a discussion about mid-season awards, even though we're past the midway point, but the unofficial mid-season. What do we got, Keith? What's going on?
How you doing? I just want to make the first comment about the Phillies, and then I want to talk about this Jalen Hurts thing, because it boils down to one thing, which I will get to in a minute. First of all, 1984, Willie Hernandez for the Detroit Tigers was a reliever and won the MVP award.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And second thing, it's Bryce Harper. I know Bum's having a great year, but Bryce Harper is just Bryce Harper. He's so far and away better than anybody else.
He's unreal.
All right, now about this Jalen Hurts thing and these rankings. The Eagles' ranking, or not the Eagles, but Jalen Hurts' ranking and Nick Sirianni's ranking boiled down to 8 games in your career where they went 1-7. If that defense holds 3 of those games, and let's not forget, Jalen Hurts and that offense got that defense 10-point leads in 5 games, and they blew all of them. If they don't blow 2 of them, if they win 3 of those 7 games, they're 13-4, and we're not having this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the defense was abysmal last year. I mean, I don't think Jalen Hurts necessarily played that great last season, though.
Yeah, but you don't have to play great. And Brock Purdy doesn't play great.
No, he doesn't.
He just doesn't turn the ball over. And
and that's a pretty big deal. Hurts was very high up on the turnover list last year. Like that, and that's something like I'm not being hot take radio. That has to be fixed. You know what I mean? Like that, you can't have second most turnovers in the NFL and be considered a great quarterback.
the other thing you questioned is, what's more important, a great coach or a great quarterback? It's a quarterback.
Yes.
I don't care if you can be George Halas. If you don't have a quarterback, you're not winning.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy is a Super Bowl winning head coach, and I think he's a moron. Thanks for the call, Keith. I think he's a terrible head coach, but he won
Aaron Rodgers.
He won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and that's why you and I both answered, and Keith answered, that it is more important to have a good quarterback than a good coach, because we've seen not good head coaches win Super Bowls.
Yes, it's very rare you see a not good quarterback win one.
Right, absolutely. It's just Nick Foles caught lightning in the bottle.
Hey, I said not good quarterback. I know you just didn't bring up Nick Foles in that convo.
All right, we continue the conversation. I know we have more texts on this discussion, so we'll read more texts coming up next. But also, we take a look at the betting odds for tonight's Home Run Derby. We'll make our picks tonight, and I'll have my rant about value bets because a lot of you make me laugh. It's Kincade Salciunas, Connor, and for John today, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Kincade Salciunas is presented.
It is 9:28 on Kincade and Salciunas on this Monday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic. Johnny out today. He'll be back tomorrow. Connor's been in his chair today. Tom Alvord producing the show, doing a great job as always. All right, we'll get back to the text line in a couple of minutes, but the Home Run Derby is tonight in Major League Baseball. You were saying before the show this morning, Tom, I'd like to get your thought on this. Connor likes the Home Run Derby more than the actual All-Star game. I could not disagree fast enough.
Yeah, I would. The All-Star game I like more. I do.
It's the only All-Star game out of all four sports where it's still actually played at a legit level.
Because there's no way to kind of half-ass baseball.
Right. Like, Paul Skeens will throw 102 miles per hour tomorrow night.
And if he's
not going to throw 85.
Right. And if he doesn't, Bryce Harper's going to hit a ball 500 feet.
Right.
So it's just like there's no way to not go full effort.
And you can't go into go into the box.
Oh.
Yeah.
You understand.
You can't go into the box not prepared to swing because you also need to prepare to get out of the way of a 102-mile-an-hour fastball that might be coming your way, and you don't want to get hurt during the All-Star game. And because it's the best relievers, like the best pitchers are like that's why I love the All-Star game because it's legit baseball with the best players in the league at this season.
Home Run Derby's still better.
No, it's not.
I just sorry. I feel like it's more. There's so many rule changes. I don't know. Things have been so different with the Home Run Derby. I think it's watered down.
I'll tell you right now. I don't know the last time I watched the Home Run Derby in its entirety or close to it. I can't tell you the last time I did it.
I believe I have, like, every year I've worked here at least. I can't tell you the last time I didn't watch the entirety of the Home Run Derby.
It does nothing for me. Like, I remember watching when Ryan Howard was in it and Bobby Abreu and all that because there's the Phillies players. But, like...
And this is not, like, it's not anti-All-Star game. Like,
no.
I love the All-Star game.
Yeah.
But to me, I watch baseball every night. I don't get to watch these guys do this. Like, I know they're great players, but I see all these guys play. I don't get to see just batting practice, hit the ball as far as you can. It feels more different than what I watch every night with the Phillies to me. It feels like a more unique thing to consume. I think that's why I like it better.
Yeah, see, I remember, this is so random. Like, seeing guys hit home runs in BP is not, like, that really cool to me. But I remember years ago, I mean, Richie Sexson, so that means how old this is. Remember, Richie Sexson was like 6'8". He was real tall.
Yeah.
When the Mariners ballpark was empty, they did this before fans started arriving, which was smart. They let him take BP with a metal bat.
Oh,
and he was putting it into the third deck, like 15 rows up. Like, that's cooler to me than a home run derby with wooden bats.
Well, that's essentially the same thing. You just want to see him hit it further, which is what I'm saying. Like, nukes are fun.
Yeah, but there's not many.
I'm a simpleton, too. Like, I just want to, we talked about our dumb sports brain.
Yes.
But I just want to see them hit the ball far.
So here's the field for the All-Star, for the Home Run Derby. And I'll go in order of odds. Best odds, Pete Alonso at plus 300, looking for his bounce back after last year's disappointing finish for him. Will he do exercises today, I guess, right?
Absolutely. He'll be doing his weird douchey bench press things.
And he'll do his weird
meditation. He's already doing it.
Yeah, that's weird. Marcelo Zuna is second at plus 380. I saw, who's the guy? Carabas? One of the baseball guys.
Carabas.
So he had a great point. He's like, man, people must really not want to participate in the Major League Baseball home run derby because you have a guy who's not somebody you really want to promote.
Yes.
On one of the biggest nights of the year. A guy with a DUI and domestic violence in his past, and you have him in the home run derby.
Yeah, it's not a great look.
No. Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles is third. Bobby Witt Jr. is fourth. Adolis Garcia of the Rangers is fifth at plus 500. Teoscar Hernandez with the Dodgers at plus 1,100. So now you make a jump. Adolis Garcia is fifth at plus 500. You go up to plus 1,100 with Hernandez. plus 1,200 for Jose Ramirez of the Guardians, and then Alec Bohm last at plus 1,600. I talked about this. No! I hate that so much. I hate it's a good value bet. No, it's not. I think I didn't say it on the air, but I told you about this off the air. There was a guy that used to work here in our sales department, and he bet on like Wagner 4 or 5 years ago to win the NCAA tournament because it was like plus 15 million for them to win the tournament. Oh, it's great value. You put like $20 down. I'm like, dude, you just give it to me.
Right. I'll light it on fire in front of you.
No,
That's all you're doing.
I'll take it because you're wasting it anyway, so you might as well like just give it to me. Alec Bowman's not going to win the home run derby. He's not. So don't just because you love him and he's got great odds. The payout would be the highest. Doesn't mean it's a value bet.
What's more likely to happen? A team comes back down 3-0 in a playoff series, or Alec Bohm wins the home run derby?
Team comes back down 3-0.
Stop it.
More so than Alec Bohm winning the home run derby.
Stop it.
Oh, the odds just updated. He's now at 2,100. And it just updated, and Alonso went down to plus 280. So by far the favorite at plus 280. I still wouldn't go a lot. Like, look, I get the whole value bet thing. Like, if I were to, all right, let me get a decent payout, Bobby Wood Jr. would be the guy that I would pick.
Yeah.
Plus 470. He's in the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen in these home run derbies.
I would look at Garcia, too. Like,
Agreed.
that dude is a monster. He has not hit well at all this year. He had a major, major home run drought.
Yep.
I think that's probably why his odds are where they are. But the home run derby is not so much a home run drought. It's kind of just who is the biggest, strongest, most consistent hitter. And I think he could very much be in that conversation.
I would look at, even though this is high odds, I would look at Teoscar Hernandez, too.
I don't hate that one either.
Because he's a guy that hits home runs. Like, he's
got over 20 this year, doesn't he?
He's at 19.
19.
But, he's a guy that just kind of hits home runs. Like, that's kind of what he does in the league.
Is this turning into the dunk contest for you guys? I had this conversation yesterday with someone at softball where they're like, it's very similar to the dunk contest in that the guys you want to see, the Bryce Harper, the Aaron Judge, like they just don't do it anymore.
Or I mean, the dunk contest is so horrible. I don't think I'm at that point. I don't think I'll ever get there, but I do think it's more watered down now. It's not nearly as must-watch as it was when we were kids.
Right, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Our man Tristan Homan checks in. $100 says Alec Bohm wins the home run derby.
I'll take that bet.
He says this is Bobby Abreu all over again. Bobby Abreu actually hit 30 home runs in a season twice.
Here's the best argument I can make for Alec Bohm winning the home run derby is the Philly sports are weird thing. What would cause the most discourse is if a guy we always complain about not showcasing enough power for his frame goes out and wins the home run derby and then goes back to being a double hitter for the team. That would just have people calling left and right saying, well, he needs to hit 30 home runs now and everything, and it would make our heads explode, so that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, if you could do it in a home run derby, why can't he do it in a game?
That will be the narrative.
Especially when Schwarber loses in the first round, a year ago.
Right, yeah.
He threw it to Pujols out of respect.
Results, buddy.
The whole league gave everything to Pujols. Like,
even juiced baseballs.
Throwing him cookies to hit home runs so that he can reach certain numbers. Ridiculous. All right, Tommy, what do we have on the text line as we're getting closer to the Kincade Salciunas Key 3-hour crossover with Bob Cooney? I want to give a chance to hear some more of the listeners' opinions on the rankings today, not ours. CBS Sports has Nick Sirianni 15th among coaches in the NFL. The executives, scouts, and coaches who spoke with Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, they voted, and Jalen Hurts was down to 13. What do we have on the text line, Tommy?
Yeah, so we got one here it's from Louisiana, no name, unfortunately. Here's the issue with Hurts. In today's NFL, unlike the 80s when Joe Montana, had 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back, QBs nowadays get penalized for having weapons.
I agree.
The new mantra is that a QB makes wide receivers better. That's why he's not in the top 10 nationally.
That's because Tom Brady made wide receivers better. That's because Patrick Mahomes makes wide receivers better. Those two are also considered the greatest of all time in the sport. I hate the narrative that Jalen Hurts, anybody could play with the weapons that Jalen Hurts is around. Yes, anybody could play with what Jalen Hurts has. Anybody could have played with Josh Allen, with Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, running backs. Like, anybody could have played there. Anybody could play with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and what used to be Joe Mixon as well.
Do Miami. Bro,
Yes.
anyone could play with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devin A. Shane and every Raheem Mostert, all the guys they got down
Matthew
there.
Stafford. Oh, Stafford, man, they got him out of a bad spot. But he's got Cooper Kupp, who's considered the greatest wide receiver in the NFL when he's healthy. And now all of a sudden, Puka Nacua is this guy that comes out of nowhere and is incredible. I hate that narrative that Jalen, and the narrative is real, by the way, so I'm not disagreeing with the texter. I just don't like that Jalen Hurts does seem to get docked for playing with the team that he plays when there are a lot of teams that have a lot of great weapons. 2 wide receivers are now easy to find in the NFL.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Geno Smith has 3 legit wide receivers to throw to.
Right. Call the Titans and yell at them for trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles,
Yeah.
or I don't know. It's not Hurts' fault, though. Sorry, Howie Roseman's good at his job.
Yeah.
I got another one here. No name, unfortunately. Again, the hard thing with Hurts is that there's no middle ground. If you talk about his negatives, you're seen as a hater. If you talk about his positives, you're seen as a lover. I think they got them almost right. I probably would have had him in the top 10, probably at 9 or 10. But you have absolutely 1 crazy, amazing season going against 2 okay seasons, and that's the problem.
That is the problem. And I think we don't realize, I did a deep dive on it. I think you were here for it. The 3 years ago with Shane Steichen, when Steichen took over, I looked at the numbers, the time Steichen took over, they weren't great. Like, it's not like Hurts' numbers all of a sudden exploded. No, they ran the football consistently.
Yes.
And they got to the playoffs because of it. And then the next year, he was amazing, Jalen Hurts was. Last year, he was not. No. He was not great last year. He wasn't horrible. Turnovers were horrible. But he was not a horrible quarterback last year. But there's a reason why he slides down to 13th in this ranking, because he wasn't great. Now, the 12 quarterbacks ahead of him, there's an argument for almost all of them to also go down.
Yeah.
Like, Josh Allen should not be 3rd. He shouldn't be.
No. And Joe Burrow should not be up there at 2.
He probably shouldn't be. You're right.
Like, there's plenty to say about the list in general. What I will say to that last texter is I initially guessed Jalen Hurts would be at 9. So that's right in the range. I don't think he's like egregiously underrated. It's not like he's Lamar Jackson and they have him at 13, but he should be higher. And I just don't think people properly evaluate quarterbacks.
Here's what we'll do. I'll pull you guys behind the curtain.
Okay.
I know John's got the tighter connection. We should get Jeremy on tomorrow. Because I'm curious to also know this. So if you're just tuning in, these rankings, like Jared Goff, for example, finished 9th, but it also shows where he got his highest vote. His highest vote was 5th in the league. His lowest was out of the top 10. For the quarterbacks that were out of the top 10, they don't have the highest vote. I wonder what the highest vote for Jalen Hurts was. Like, I'd be very curious to find out if somebody did have him as a top 5 quarterback, one of these scouts, executives, or coaches, or did nobody have him in the top 10 at all?
It's certainly
There's
possible.
a formula for them to come up with the order.
Right, like either of those things are certainly possible. So
we'll try to get Jeremy on tomorrow. That'd be a fun conversation to have.
Okay.
All right, coming up next, the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show. Connor was in for Johnny today. John will be back tomorrow. Also, our crossover with Bob Cooney's coming your way next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bill
Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Connor has been in for John today. Johnny will be back tomorrow from his trip to Virginia, seeing the gravestones and other things. So the town looks cool.
Yeah.
He posted some photos.
And he was back today, but he wanted that extra rest day, which anyone who
listen.
doesn't take the extra rest day after vacation to kind of chill before you go back to work, I think is great.
I was at a wedding not long ago where the groom didn't even take a rest day from work.
What?
Yeah.
He
They
worked
didn't
on his wedding?
they didn't do the honeymoon right away. So wedding was Saturday.
Oh, he worked the day after his wedding.
He worked on Monday. So Saturday, Sunday he was off, like most people are.
Yeah.
But then he worked Monday.
That's fine. He got a Sunday. Sure, his wife was happy.
I'm taking my time, man. All right, it's time now for the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3.
Now, the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
CBS, they put together the rankings for the head coaches in the NFL heading into the 2024-25 season. And Nick Sirianni, not too high, not too low. He is right in the middle. He comes in at number 15. And I think that's a fair spot to be in. Their classes, they have a Class C, which is unknown. Class B is accomplished with questions. And that's where he stands in the CBS rankings of head coaches. Here's what they say about him. How does a guy with the second best win percentage among active coaches end up 15th just 2 years after leading the Eagles to the Super Bowl shootout with the Kansas City Chiefs? Look no further than the 2023 collapse in which his brash personality only exacerbated a 1-7 finish that included and preceded major staff upheaval with new top assistants, the pressure's on to capitalize on an all-star roster. So first, before we dive deeper into it, is that a fair spot for Nick Sirianni to be in, not knowing who the 13 best in the game coaches are?
My immediate reaction is it feels a little low.
Okay.
Only because I don't think the NFL is in that good of a spot. The breakdown is fair, and when I hear the coaches around him, it's not terrible company to be in.
We know that sports, other than football, have very long seasons. Baseball is 162 games, 82 in the NHL and the NBA. It's a long season. There are things that probably shouldn't bother us that do. I mean, we're all sports fans, right? Like how many times have you heard, what do you mean they didn't put full fourth effort? They get paid so much money to play sports. If I was out there, like you've heard that from callers, you've heard that from hosts, you've heard it from friends. I've complained about Bryce Harper not busting it down the first baseline, which ended up leading to the Phillies losing a run because of it. And I go, why can't this guy sprint? He's getting paid $330 million, right? So yesterday, my father's he's fuming because the Phillies are getting beat down by the A's, 18-3. And he says the words, this just can't happen. I'm like, what do you mean this can't happen? They're losing to the worst team in baseball. They're the best team in baseball. They're going to go into the All-Star break on a bad note. And my immediate reaction is, take a sip of your beer. Like, we're on the beach.
Yeah, calm down.
Just enjoy yourself. And I think that bothers people. Even though out of 162 games, out of what happens in the NLCS or hopefully the World Series, and if the Phillies lose a game in the NLCS or a World Series, it had nothing to do with what took place July 14th, 2024.
No, not at all. And the whole best team in baseball can't have games like this. Every team in baseball has games like this. The Oakland Athletics have scored 19 runs in a game this year. They've scored 20 runs in a game this year. Like, it happens to other teams.
Only team to score 18 or more runs. It's happened 3 times this year, and it's all the Athletics.
That's unbelievable.
It's just, I don't know. Baseball's weird.
It's a weird sport. ESPN.com ranked the quarterbacks. They've interviewed executives, coaches, and scouts. Now, these coaches can be anywhere from head coaches to maybe, quarterback coach or assistant coach, but they have a lot of them. You want to guess where Jalen Hurts ranks? This voted on by executives, coaches, and scouts in the NFL, not the CFL, not college football, not your bar, not your fantasy football league. The people that work the league at the highest level. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, Stafford 5th, Herbert, Stroud, Rodgers, Goff, and Prescott. Coda Prescott at 10. Your honorable mentions in order: Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, and then Jalen Hurts. So if I go in order, that means Jalen Hurts is 13. That's nuts.
Purdy at 11. That's ridiculous.
See, I've never been more confident in one of my strongest takes that I've ever had, which is that we give way too much credit to executives and coaches in sports for believing they know what they're doing. They don't have a clue. I'm not saying all of them, but just like any other job and any other industry, there are some very, very bad ones.
All right, that's the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3. Connor in for John today. And before we get to Bob Cooney and our crossover, I want to thank Ray Dunn.
Big move by him.
For bringing in the Federal Donuts this morning. Ray made a little pit stop before he came into the office, got the Federal Donut, and I scarfed one down. And I appreciate Ray Dunn for it. And I also appreciate Bob Cooney. Hi, Bobby.
Morning, boys. What's happening?
What's going on with you, man?
We all good?
Yeah.
Great. Good weekend?
Yeah.
Crazy weekend?
Crazy weekend for sure. We did not talk about any of the craziness today. It was a crazy weekend, though. That's for sure.
18-3 is nuts.
18-3 is crazy. Yeah.
I've never seen a team with 1 foot on the charter plane more so than the Phillies yesterday.
That's absolutely what was going on.
Well, they threw a bullpen game, so there is a little bit. I don't think
but wow. 4 hits? 2 guys get hits for you?
Yeah, they were ready.
162. Everyone throws away a play every once in a while.
I don't mind. Like, I'm not, nobody wants to see that, but I get it.
Scheduled loss.
It's fine.
So I'll ask you that. One of our topics today, we got away from it because we were so focused on these quarterback and coaching rankings.
You all right today? You have a rough weekend? You seem a little like, come on, let's go.
He's been good today. You need to call him.
I'm good.
No, I listen no more.
You're ready to go.
I told you guys.
I'm at the end. You're ready to go.
That's right.
What is something in a long season that shouldn't really bother you because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter? So I was with my parents yesterday down the shore, and we're listening to the game on the radio, and the Phillies are getting beat up. And here's my dad. This kind of stuff can't happen. You're about to go into the All-Star break on a bad note. You're one of the best teams in baseball. Your home series winning streak is over, and 18-3. And I'm just like,
I ain't hanging with your dad down the shore. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm going, yeah, Dad, it's annoying, but like, they just swept the Dodgers. But I know he's not alone. What is something in a long season that probably shouldn't bother you, but every once in a while it gets under your skin?
I'll tell you what, it might be a topic on my show today.
Oh!
You numb chuckles that are going around saying this is the greatest team you've ever seen in Philadelphia sports history. Like, it has nothing to do with losing 2 out of 3 to the A's. It has nothing to do with anything except there's still 93 games or whatever still to play in this season. Like, stop. You can't. Because
have a vision, Bob.
It's a generational thing for sure.
It's not. No, I would have said this to you when I was 17 years old.
No. But I think it's we're social media immediate reaction. Have to have something as quickly as you can. And we grew up with that being our nature.
What have you done for me? Like, what can I get instantaneously?
Yes.
You're right. I hear you on that. But, I mean, like that, to me, is taking away from this season because you're only letting yourself up for letdown.
You may be right.
I'm
going to do it anyway.
What do we got on the show today, Bobby?
I don't know. I have no clue. Ray Dunn's going to be my co-host today because, we don't have anybody else. So he's going to be... Just kidding.
Nicer. You got your donuts.
Ray's the best.
Where's Bill?
If you guys knew how close Ray and I were. So we got Brendan Gunn producing. A lot of Phillies.
Double duty for B. Gunn today.
Yeah, it's about time he did some work. So, we got a lot of fun going on today. We're going to look back at this first half of the season, obviously, and then have some fun with it, moving forward as far as that stuff goes. Maybe we'll look at these rankings stuff with the football and all that. So
Eagles, Bobby.
I've avoided it. And not that I love the Eagles. You guys know that. I love football season. I find it hard to force feed myself into talking about it. So
you've done that for Ray, who doesn't want to fast forward the summer. That's nice.
Yeah. Well, and Ray's going to talk football and soccer.
Point.
All right. Remember to support life-saving cancer research. Join me and our generous partner, the Davis CPA Group, in making a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. Cancer research saves lives.
Everybody have a great rest of your day. John Kincade will be back at it tomorrow, so we'll talk to you then. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.